Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome in, folks. Off to a good start. My voice is already a little scratchy to start with. Let's see if we can't help that with a bit of tea, which I think I'll probably be going through a couple of mugs tonight. We are, oh my god, that sucks. I'm so sorry, Kursala. Am I allowed to actively speak out against the people whose advertisements run on my channel? Considering I don't have any sort of, agreement with Disney. Thunderhead Studio in no way endorses patronizing Disney in any of its forms, be it their physical parks, their digital media, or literally any other form. Please do not give them money. Data Nerd Kursala Sumatha Shak Bahamut. Welcome in. How you doing, Bahamut? Datrin Voltari, it's wonderful to see you. Trying something a little different tonight. I'm gonna give it we're gonna hang out for a couple of minutes while I enjoy my mug of tea. We don't really have much of a plan for tonight. I don't know how much I'm going to read. I don't know how long I'm going to read. This is a completely fresh experience for me. We're gonna kind of see how long my voice lasts, see how long it takes. I don't know. I've literally, I'm trying to think, how many times have I read fiction to people in my life? Not many. I have performed. I did. Yes, I did, Bahamut. I don't watch really that many bat reps, but I do like what Play on Tabletop does with their 40K in 40 minutes. And yeah, Dr. Rhino was featured on Play on Tabletop. The video came out today, folks. If you haven't checked it out, I strongly recommend that you do. It was a good time. Rhino's got a real X factor. He does very, very well on camera, and he made an excellent showing of himself, particularly since the guy showed up and he was like, hey, I painted both of these armies, and they both looked amazing. That was fucking amazing. Wombat Combat, welcome in. How you doing? Like I said, I don't know how much we're going to read tonight, how long it's going to take, how long we're going to go. I have no idea. In my life, I have performed on stage, which is completely different. And I have done public speaking a number of times, which is also, I think, fairly different than, narration and storytelling. That's something that is very new to me. But I want to give it a try. And Sumatha was kind enough to allow me to use his fiction. I mean, really, I could probably use almost anything, and it wouldn't be much of an issue, really, even though I don't have the rights to it, but I prefer doing something that I have the blessing of the creator. Am I reading that title right? Possibly. What does the title say, Sewer Creature? Does it say that we're going to be doing some live reading? Because if so, yes, that is. That is, in fact, the case. Ren, welcome in. Good to see ya. Yeah, his armies look fucking awesome. And, Dr. Rhino's an incredibly prolific painter, and he's up there in my pantheon of painters that I keep that are sort of if you're worried about getting every little detail right, or your army's not going to look great, go look at what Rhino's doing, because, he doesn't fret over every single little detail. He doesn't overthink armies like I tend to do. He just sits down and he slaps down some paint. He sticks to a couple of good rules of thumb. He uses good concepts. He uses bright colors. He uses his color wheel well. And he churns out armies. Whole armies that look fucking amazing. I'd laugh so hard if one of the Play on Tabletop guys bought Rhino's Gene Steel. Yeah. No, he made an excellent showing of himself. I won't give the ending away. It is only it's 40K in 40 minutes, so it's not too much of a watch. And if you're not familiar with the channel, go check out Play on Tabletop and check out Dr. Rhino's game that went live as of today. It's a very amusing watch. It's very, very well produced. The only note that I really have for it is that's not how you pronounce the word chitin. I think he says, chitin? A wave of chitin came over crested the hill, blades flashing in the sun. That's not the word. That's not it, but that's okay. It's an uncommon word. A wave of shittin'. Yeah, it's a poo-poo joke. Put the finishing touches on that Old Dominion mini while I listen to the clip I made of your pre-raid speech on repeat. Fuck you, Wombat. Oh, that'll work out nicely then, Ren. My fucking Panthers, De Tomaso's, got done literally like a minute before I started this, so I haven't had a chance to pull them off the plate or clean them up. Monkey Man the Third, thank you so much for the follow. Welcome to the stream. Welcome to the Storm Chasers. A very good afternoon to you as well. You're catching us on a strange day, on an odd day. We're doing something today that we have never done before. That's really just kind of me trying something new. We're going to be doing a little bit of reading of some fiction written by our very own Sumitha here in chat. What about the even? It's a math joke. I think you might be vastly overestimating how many changes I made, Kursala. When I say I reworked it, what I mean is I took a look at, because I've got a finished one here. Here, you can see it. It's right here. Look at all the details. Doesn't it look amazing? Oh my god. Look at all the panel lines and the curves, and you can really get in. Oh, I'm being a smartass. But I do have this one printed version of it that came out really nicely. I went ahead and just deepened some details, added one or two small things, widened a couple of panel lines, just really made changes to make printing and painting overall easier, thickened up a couple of pieces that were a little thin, redid the posing on it, made a few variants, and then put them all on the plate. So I think these are probably going to be the final file versions complete with pre-supports, but I will find that out after the stream, and then once I get these cured up and assembled, I'll put some primer down on them, and I will be sure to share some pictures of the new Panteras. It's also just a teeny little bit small. I have a spider here. I have one of the CGL spiders, and I put it next to it, and it's just a little bit shorter than the spider, and I'm like, the spider's 35 tons. The spider's 30 tons, the Panther's 35. It should be, if anything, a little bit larger, so I bumped the size up slightly. We'll see if I need to bump it up any more to be happy with it. Oh yeah, no, that makes perfect sense, Sumitha, absolutely. Currently working on my diorama, so I've been looking for someone to listen to. We'll see if we can. We'll see if we can't provide something amusing for you there, Monkey Man. What kind of diorama are you working on, out of curiosity? Dr. Rhino said I'm the oil baron now. You have to grow your mustache longer. So you can curl the ends up, you know? That's the only way that's going to be acceptable, Wombat. I genuinely have no idea how long we're going to go for tonight. Like I said, I've never done this sort of thing before, so we're just going to kind of see how long my voice holds up, I guess. Siege of Terra. Ooh, interesting. 2 foot by 4 foot. Now, is it sort of a battle scene of the Siege of Terra, like a sea of space marines, Imperial fists holding back the tides, or are you doing like the Emperor's Throne Room Siege of Terra, with Sanguinius laying slain and all, or as our good friend Stila Rebel put it, Sanguini, which is still my favorite pronunciation. I hope everyone's having a good evening today, by the way. And yeah, please feel free to share it with us. Monkey Man, we have an art share segment at the end of literally every stream that we do. So if you've got some pictures that you'd like to share with us, and we'd love to see anything you have, be it work in progress, finished, or really anything at all. It's so easy to do. All you have to do is hop into the Thunderhead Studio Discord, which you can access by hitting !Discord in chat, or by clicking the link that should be down, I think down there. I think my finger's probably pointing to it. And maybe there. I don't know what side of the screen it's on now. But jump on in there, find the channel marked The Storm Report, and go ahead and post a picture and we'll take a look at it at the end of the stream and give you some feedback if you like, or just show it off if that's what you prefer. Trench warfare scene with Imperial Fist trying to hold back a sea of World Eaters. I would like to see that. Imperial Fist happen to be my favorite chapters / Legion, and I rather like the pre-Heresy World Eaters color scheme with the white armor. Sounds like a type of crimson a linguine. DD Builds, good to see you. Thank you so much for saying so. I had a pretty good weekend. I'm a little low energy today. I feel like doing some reading. I kind of want to just knock the... Like, I keep saying, like, oh, I've done stage acting and I've done public speaking in the past. It's been years, and I've never done, like, fiction narration. Well, that's not strictly true. I've DM'd for tabletop games, which is essentially fiction narration, but for like a write it as you go, choose your own adventure novel. So this is different, this is new, and like I said, we're gonna take it nice and easy, and we're gonna see how it goes. Yeah, it very much is improv. Which, speaking of which, I was invited by a friend of mine to play in an online campaign of 5e that he is going to be recording for. I did the Cyberpunk thing a while, but yeah, I did, Kurosawa, and that's kind of what made me feel like doing this. A 5e game that is apparently going to be recorded for a podcast, and I've been sort of concepting out a character for that based on the character from Mythica 3. The Bugomancer, the rogue guy with the bugs that lived under his cloak. I want to find a way to make that character in 5e. I haven't played 5e. I played 3.5. I played a little bit of 4th. Fucking hated it. And I haven't touched 5th, so everybody seems to like it, though. So, I'll get brushed up on that. Just remember to pause the drink regularly. Yeah, I'm figuring some tea and water are going to be my friends tonight. I'm going to take plenty of breaks. Worst case scenario, I blow my voice out a little bit, or we have any hitches, I'll just swap over to doing 3D modeling. For a little while. You don't like 5e Desert Owl? Everybody else seems to like it. Not at all, Monkey Man. Take your time. We don't close it up until I actually start doing the Storm Report, which is generally at about 8:30 p.m. Mountain Time. We might start it early tonight. I don't know. Tonight is, like, we usually have kind of a rigid structure on the stream, just because that's how I like to run it. Tonight's a little bit more free form, so we'll see how it goes. I enjoyed 3.5, but it was a long time ago. Hey, Zombie Girl was awesome. Let's not besmirch the name of Zombie Girl. Been playing a 5e game where the party thinks I'm a druggie. Ah, but are you? But are you? I'm gonna need to take a look at the classes and really just kind of brush up on 5e in general, but offhand I assume that a character with an affinity for insect control would probably be a druid. That is my assumption, but again, I need to dig into the supplements and actually figure that out. I just have the character concept right now. A fledgling vampire is sort of like a druggie. The vampires are essentially just blood junkies. I'm fine with that, Stoneless B, because I haven't touched D&D in years at this point. Even the systems I've DM'd for haven't been D&D for a long time. I've played Pathfinder, Datron Voltari, and yeah, it's very, very similar to what I remember from 3.5. I'm pretty sure that we're doing 5e, but he's running it. I'm not gonna pressure him one way or the other. If he wants to run 5e, then that's what we're gonna do, you know? I have DM'd enough to know how I like players to behave when I am the DM, and I'm not gonna be a shitty player. I'm gonna try my damnedest not to metagame, even though my brain is permanently wired towards metagaming. Roland, good to see you. Welcome in. And how you doing, Stoneless B? It's good to see you. Swarmkeeper Ranger. I'll bear that in mind. I'll take a look at that. Less crunch than 3.5, which is good for newer players. You know, I don't have a problem with that. As long as the party is good, like, Theater of the Mind is perfect for Dungeons and Dragons for me. Oh my god, it's Dr. Rhino. The famous, the infamous, if you will, now, as of today, Dr. Rhino. Dr. Rhino, why don't you grab a link for us real quick? Why don't you grab a YouTube link? Over to that video. That social media sensation, that viral video that you star in. And go ahead and post that in chat for us, will you? Mafik, it's good to see you. How you doing today? DD Builds, what are you up to? Did you have a good weekend? I hope you did. So we're going to be reading some fiction tonight from a fan supplement for the... And folks, click, see that link? See that link there? Where is it? Where's chat? Is it... Oh my god, you can see my skinned finger. Oh, how gross. I pulled the skin off my finger. It's disgusting. Over there. Chat's gonna be over... Wait, it's over there. That's the direction. Click on that YouTube link, folks. That should go on over to Play on Tabletop in the episode that Dr. Rhino was in. Just got published today. Great episode. Loved watching it. I won't give away the ending, though I was pleased with the outcome. Good, tight game. One of the better ones to watch that I've seen in a while. And I mean, this guy painted both armies. Both armies. How often do you see a tabletop game where one player's like, ah, I did both of these armies. They're both amazing looking. Their concepts are fantastic. They're super high level with a bunch of custom effects and customized infantry and cool concepts and freehand all over them. And I did both of them. No big deal. This fucking guy. I'm glad to hear that, DD. Oh, it's healed up quite a lot. It, like, I'm not gonna, I'm here, like, let me show you my finger. Ugh, it's disgusting. It's mostly healed up at this point, so I just have some kind of raw flesh on top right now. But yeah, it wasn't even that bad. I caught it on an edge, and I just sort of, like, pulled the outermost layer of skin just off the back of my finger, like all the way down. It was ridiculous. It didn't even hurt at first. Like, it was just like the outermost layer of skin, to the point where it wasn't even bleeding. It was just like sort of grubby pink raw skin underneath, and I was like, oh, what the hell? Oh my god, Dr. Rhino. The benefit of hindsight, 3 and 3.5 detailed things that add less to the game than the added complexity costs. I'm okay with 5 streamlining what it did. I remember that, the Amish Stig. 3.5 in particular was just a move to... It was like the thrust of 3.5 was adding more crunch to a game that had previously been very free-form. And then 4th edition was an abomination. 4th edition was... I remember I played one... like... What did I play? 2 or 3 sessions of a single campaign in 4th edition, and it was like playing World of Warcraft, but somehow lamer, which might be difficult to comprehend, to even imagine. But it was like playing World of Warcraft, but in a room with people with dice, and somehow feeling even more guilty about it because I wasn't... Like, at least if I'm playing World of Warcraft, I'm usually, like, alone in a room, and I have, like, a bag of Cheetos and some Mountain Dew to keep flooding my brain with the chemicals that make me feel less shame in the moment, you know? And nobody can see me. Yes. Decent tactical rule set would have been a good turn-based CRPG. Quite possibly. It was such a wild departure from me from what I knew I'll be the first to admit I probably didn't really give it a fair shake. It was uncomfortable, and it wasn't what I was interested in playing at the time. But again, I haven't played 5th, so we'll see how this goes. Dr. Rhino, what are you up to tonight, man? You gonna hang out for a little bit? I'm gonna start doing some reading here in a little bit. Yeah, I've very rarely heard anyone say anything good about 4th edition. I've heard a lot of hyperbole about it. A lot of hyperbole. And I think that that's probably strong, but then the criticisms of it are also perfectly valid, in my opinion, from my experience. And as we know, I never engage in hyperbole, personally. Not me. Never. Under no circumstances. Thunderhead Studios contains adult language situations and psychological nudity. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to you too, Hamburg Tack. It's good to see you. Happy Heretic. Welcome in. Ooh, excuse me. Pound some water. Fucking hydrate, baby. That's what it's all about. Oh, you can listen. You can listen all you want, Dr. Rhino, but keep your hands away from your bathing suit area. We're not that kind of stream. That's what I'm doing, Shock. Alright, so as I said before, I'm going to go ahead and say again, we don't have any kind of a plan for this, for tonight. This is literally just, lately I've been kind of playing with the notion of and ramping up towards putting in some auditions to do some small-time audiobook narration and start getting into, like, voiceover acting. These are things that I've never done in my life, like, at all. And I realized, like, I need any experience, any experience at all. And an experience with an audience is a good thing, I think, because you can give me feedback and let me know how I did, and I need to exercise my voice. I need to start engaging in more character work. So we're gonna read a little bit. We're gonna read some fiction from the BattleTech universe. Now, for those of you who are not aware, our very own here in chat, Sumitha, penned a fan technical readout, which is what BattleTech calls its supplement books, known as Operation Lancaster. Feedback is welcome, but your smartassery will not be tolerated. But Operation Lancaster is a BattleTech supplement set during the Blakist Jihad period, around 3050 in the BattleTech universe. And now, I'm not going to give you a full primer on the history of BattleTech. Suffice to say that specific knowledge of BattleTech and of its history is not really all that necessary. A general knowledge of the BattleTech universe and the technology involved in it would help to fill in some of the gaps and understand some of what's going on. We have a lot of BattleTech fans here in chat, so if you have any general questions about the BattleTech universe to clarify what's going on, please feel free to ask in chat. I can't promise that I'll stop and explain it, but it's not a terribly complex universe. There are lots of places you can go online to get a primer on it. The short version is humanity went out into space and we built big mechs and we fought each other and then we blew ourselves up and then we built back up into our technology and then we got invaded by some assholes and then we beat the assholes and then we got invaded by some other religious assholes and then we beat the religious assholes and then we blew ourselves up again and then we built back up again, and this takes place during the we're getting invaded by some religious assholes. This is the broadest strokes that I can give you. Yeah, there's lots of assholes. Lots of assholes and robots. Robots with assholes. This is not going at all the way I planned. But yeah, we have, as I said, a lot of BattleTech fans here in chat, so if you need clarification on any of the specific technology or anything, go ahead and ask. I don't think it's going to be super necessary. With the way this is written, you can pick up a lot of it from context. But I appreciate everybody joining me here tonight. And as I said, feedback is welcome, because really what I'm focused on here is just sort of learning to narrate and learning to read fiction to an audience. Yeah, there you go, Automat. Text Talks Battletech. Good to see you, Automat Americana. Runic Raccoon. Don't listen to Runic Raccoon. Don't play the clans. Don't do that. We're Inner Sphere fans around these parts, Raccoon. Don't listen to Hamburg either. God damn it. Lancaster, not Lancaster. You know what? In the future, usage is what defines pronunciation. And in 3050, it's entirely possible that they'll pronounce it something completely different. I hear the way you guys pronounce Worcestershire. It's like Worcester. You just skip most of the letters in there. So you can take your weird Islander pronunciations and you can bake them into a shepherd's pie or whatever the fuck it is you do. Put them in a Plowman's for me. Slap some Branston pickle on there. Team Innersphere, hell yeah. A hot dog is a sandwich. I mean, I don't disagree. We've had this conversation before. So as I said, we don't have much of a plan. Why don't we just go ahead and get started? Why don't we just read some things? I think if I push this button, the music will go away. And I have gone ahead and set up a little slideshow of some non-specifically the art of Operation Lancaster as done by the very, very talented artist Matt Plog there. I was trying to think of like what should my overlay be while I'm reading. Should it just be my face? Well, I'm going to hang out up here in the corner where I belong, where I'm comfortable. And I went ahead and put up the art of Operation Lancaster. Now, many of these pieces of art, these scenes from the actual supplement, are linked to specific events. So they're not going to be necessarily that helpful, but it's something to look at. It's something to wet the whistle, if you will. And I figured probably no music. Probably no music for reading time? I don't know. You tell me. Do you think a little bit of quiet music in the background would be a good idea? Since this is a stream and not an audiobook. It's a little weird without music, isn't it? Hold on. I'm gonna put the music back in and I'm just gonna turn it down. That's my big brilliant plan. Just because it's gonna make me more comfortable, but I'm gonna have it very low, so let me know if it's distracting. Well, generally speaking, if Dr. Rhino's giving me advice, I'm doing precisely the opposite. Alright, let me get this pulled up here. I've got my iPad all set up here. It shouldn't be difficult for me to go through it. Nope, this is fairly simple. Alright. Don't take off my pants. Oh, shit. Alright, well. We're going pantless tonight, folks. No, I'm not. I'm keen to your reverse psychology, your reverse osmosis, Dr. Rhino. You can't fool me. Not again. That's not a bad... you know what I'm going to do? I am going to turn off the music. I'm going to turn off the music, but I want to have the source here. I just added it to the scene, so I can turn it on again if I want. Alright, so there's nothing for it but to start. I'm going to do a little reading. We'll take a break in a little bit, and I'm probably not going to be looking too much at chat while I read. But I'll take a break at a natural pause point, and I'll look up, and we'll palaver a little bit, and see how it went. It's interesting, trying new things, isn't it? And of course this has to start with some garbled radio transmissions, and me having no way to simulate them accurately. Oh god! We're going to be starting with the story Nightmares by Devin Ramsey. Plane of Curtains, Twycross 3. Location, mind you, 15 September, 30-50. Jaeger is down. Fall back. Mad Cat is still. My leg is full. There you go. There's your voice acting. Chandra faintly heard the voices over her radio before a loud explosion nearby disrupted the comforting peace that had settled over her. I might have some little issues with my iPad here. It's divided up into 2 pages, and I'm not totally used to the hand interface yet. So I'm going to start over. Chandra faintly heard the voices over her radio before a loud explosion nearby disrupted the comforting peace that had settled over her. In its place, her head began to ache. She felt a warm stickiness running down her nose and tasted blood on her lips. As she opened her eyes, she discovered that the visor of her Nero helmet was cracked. Flame licked at the right edge of her catapult's broken canopy as she finally comprehended that she'd lost consciousness. She knew she was probably concussed. With that in mind, Chandra quickly pored through her most recent memories in search of gaps. Lieutenant Chandra Jaeger of the 10th Lyran Guard had been providing close fire support for her company commander Zeus during a hasty retreat when her catapult had been broadsided by Clan Jade Falcon Mad Cat that seemed to appear out of nowhere. Finding herself faced with a heavier machine toting vastly superior technology and firepower, she was convinced that she was going to die in that moment. She fired everything she had. The Mad Cat barely seemed to take notice. In response, she was struck so heavily by the clanner's return fire that her mech pitched back and slammed into the ground. The heavily reinforced ferroglass canopy protecting the catapult's cockpit had exploded inwards, and the next thing she knew, she awakened in her current state. She was indeed almost certainly lightly concussed, but after checking to make sure all her fingers and toes were still working, she was satisfied she could still fight. Taking in her surroundings, she pieced together that her mech had slid down a steep slope after the fall. The sliding mech had left gouges in the hill, and uprooted a number of smaller trees in the process. The catapult had finally scraped to a halt at the bottom of a ravine on its back. As she gathered herself, Chandra discovered that the Mad Cat had begun to engage the company commander's crippled 80-ton Zeus assault battle mech at the top of the hill. Chandra struggled to understand the clan rules of engagement, but with the damage to the catapult's head and her lack of movement, the pilot of the Mad Cat must have thought her vanquished and moved on to another target. With the Mad Cat still fighting her company commander at the top of the hill, it was likely she had only been unconscious for less than a minute. A quick glance around the cockpit revealed that the catapult had gone into standby mode after having initiated an automatic shutdown to prevent damage from overheating. Being knocked out immediately after firing all of her weapons had prevented her from overriding the safety protocols to keep the mech online. She quickly keyed in the restart command, feeling more confident about her condition as she remembered the command without issue. Chandra was forced to watch as her commander Zeus was being picked apart by the Mad Cat as her catapult powered back up. Adrian Steele's Marauder seemed to all but instantaneously materialize at the top of the hill, smashing headfirst into the Mad Cat and pushing it away from the Zeus. Though the Marauder weighed about the same at 75 tons, Though the Marauder weighed in at the same 75 tons as the Mad Cat, Adrian's Marauder was inferior to the clan machine it now faced in every measurable way. After several seconds of watching her close friend battle against the overwhelming superiority of his opponent, she could both hear and feel her mech's fusion-powered heart thrum to life. The catapult finally registered a successful restart on its display monitors and unlocked the controls. Chandra hastily tried to get her catapult to stand up, but the ground shifted under her mech's feet, and the machine immediately fell back again. Something on the ground must have punched through her mangled rear armor as the mech landed on its back, because she began to hear a continuous, tortured metallic shriek from within the guts of her machine. She knew that sound. The catapult's gyro was damaged. A platoon of anti-mech infantry armed with short-range missile launchers quickly moved up to her position from a nearby tree line to give some additional suppressing fire against the Mad Cat and provide her some cover while she worked to get to her feet. Even as they took up firing positions in front of her struggling catapult, another Jade Falcon machine crested the hill. Her tactical computer tagged the new arrival as a 65-ton Loki Omni-Mech. The Loki was a little over 300 meters away and just barely out of range for the infantry's missiles. Chandra felt her heart start to race as panic began to set in. While her own mech was a match for the Loki in terms of weight, her catapult was in poor condition, and the superior clan machine looked to be in far better shape. The humanoid-shaped Loki watched Chandra as though bemused as she tried more cautiously to stand up. The infantry opened fire on the closer Mad Cat, the short-range missiles fired by the infantry at the Mad Cat only mildly peppering their target. Chandra knew that if she gave up ground and allowed the Loki to advance, the infantry that had rushed up to help her would be torn apart by the Loki's anti-personnel pods. Oh, we got a sub. I'm sorry. I've been just zeroed in. Pardon. I'll keep going. I'm not. Should probably turn off my alerts in my headphones. By the way, hey Puck Duncher, it's good to see you. We're doing some reading. Yes, I'm gonna drink some water since I paused for a second. Chandra knew that if she gave up ground and allowed the Loki to advance, the infantry that had rushed up to help her would be torn apart by the Loki's anti-personnel pods. She had seen footage of the weapons in action during her briefing before her current deployment, and knew how horrific those weapons were. Her heart skipped a beat when the Loki began to move towards her, as though hearing her thoughts. Finally getting her mech up onto one reverse-canted knee, her attention was drawn to a bright flash of intense weapons fire between the Marauder and Mad Cat. She looked over just in time to see both the Mad Cat and the Marauder simultaneously collapse, smoke and flame pouring from around the cockpits of both. Her heart cried out for her longtime friend in the Marauder, but there was nothing she could do. She had to defend the nearby infantry. Managing to get her catapult onto its feet at last, she immediately unleashed her quartet of medium lasers at the Loki. The clan war machine shrugged off the damage and returned fire with its own short-range missiles and more powerful lasers, forcing her to work hard to remain standing as the damaged gyro protested loudly from within the catapult's belly. With her heads-up display gone and her targeting reticle with it, her only hope was to hold as steady as she could, keeping the Loki roughly centered in front of her, as a tone in her helmet indicated that her long-range missiles had begun locking onto the enemy mech. As her already battered catapult began to cave in around her, alarms screeched desperately for her attention. The missile lock tone stopped as a large warning message suddenly popped up on a secondary monitor. LRM fire control malfunction. Her long-range missiles, her primary weapons, were gone. The infantry let loose a wave of their missiles at the Loki as it closed to less than 200 meters. The Loki continued to pummel the catapult mercilessly, seemingly ignoring the infantry. Warnings on a status display indicating breached armor over her left leg illuminated before another warning that the leg's lower actuator had ceased responding. More failure notifications popped up on other monitors as virtually every display turned red, many of them flashing. Chandra was forced to backpedal 2 shaky steps, fighting for control over her mech as the entire right side of the catapult's torso was ripped apart under hits from the Loki's particle cannons. The high-mounted boxy missile launcher of an arm on that side fell to the ground uselessly. The status lights for her right side medium lasers turned red. The Loki stormed forward and closed to point-blank range in what seemed like the blink of an eye, even as she struggled to cope with the punishment it inflicted upon her. Metallic dust clouds exploded from the sides of the Loki's legs as it stormed through the infantry, and her heart sank in an instant. As her mech's torso pitched and she was forced back an additional unsteady step under the barrage, her view was forced down just in time for her to bear witness as the shrapnel from the explosive anti-personnel pods tore the infantry to ribbons before her very eyes. The dying catapult became increasingly unsteady as the falling gyro sent a shudder through the entire machine. Just as she fired off her remaining pair of medium lasers one last time in a vain attempt to lash out at her assailant, a massive explosion deafened her, and she found herself violently propelled sideways. The automatic ejection system saved her life as the catapult blew apart from an ammunition explosion, but the unique sideways ejecting system used by the catapult had propelled her directly towards a large tree. She barely had time to register what was about to happen before she flew into the foliage. Smaller branches broke and snapped away, cutting at skin and threatening to tear her coolant vest open. She caught sight of a rapidly approaching large branch out of the corner of her eye. She just started to open her mouth to scream a curse when the bottom of the ejection seat struck it, twisting and weakening the seat's frame as she was propelled upwards and back in roughly the direction from which she had come. As she careened through the rest of the tree, she had difficulty telling if the snapping noises she was hearing were larger branches or her own bones. The impact had sent the seat spiraling out of control, and as she burst out from the tree, the world became a blur of alternating sky, ground, sky, ground, sky, before she finally slammed into the ground. In violent fashion. The already damaged seat crumpled on impact under her. She heard as much as felt her legs shatter as she hit. Her Nero helmet's visor broke off entirely, allowing dirt to splatter into her face, as the seat cartwheeled along the ground 3 more times before finally coming to a halt on its side. Her jaw wrenched open in a silent scream of agony. The wind was knocked out of her. As if adding insult to injury, the seat's parachute chose that moment to uselessly deploy. After a long moment spent dazed and doubled over on her side in the wrecked ejection seat, she finally regained her breath. All she could hear was her heart pounding in her ears, and her own labored breathing in her Nero helmet. In a state of shock, she unbuckled herself from the ejection seat, slipped to the ground, waves of pain rocketing through her with every movement. She felt herself land on something wet. She looked down only to discover that she had landed among the corpses of the infantry that had been shredded by the Loki as it dismissed their existence. The Loki itself was nowhere to be seen. She started to lift her head up when suddenly a soldier she had thought to be dead reached out to place his bloody, broken hand on her helmet and breathed the words, "Help me! Please!" Alright, I'm gonna have a drink. Yeah, I find myself, Dr. Rhino, kind of just kind of going through. I'm trying to remind myself to pause for a dramatic effect. I'm getting into the mindset. How you doing, Puck Duncher, by the way? Thank you so much for the resub. Let me untuck my leg here. I'm kind of sitting on my foot, which is a bad habit for circulation. Now, let's continue, shall we? Akala 3 Military Academy, New Sydney, on Akala 3. 9 December, 3053. 3 years later, essentially, if we're paying attention. Chandra's scream awoke her with a start. She thought at first she'd awakened in a hospital bed, just like she had after the events that she had relived in her dream. No, not a dream. A nightmare. The same nightmare she seemed to have in one form or another every night. Instead of a hospital room, she found herself at the desk in a dark room illuminated only by a trivid screen and a 2-dimensional display monitor next to it. Some additional light was filtering in through the large windows from the city beyond. She was trembling and slicked with a cold sweat as she tried to get her bearings. Outside, it was nighttime, and she could not see much, which only added to the confusion as to where she was. There was a flag waving gently outside in the breeze, illuminated by spotlights on the ground around the base of the flagpole. Upon seeing the large coat of arms banner of the Dreadnought Battle Corps featuring the familiar dragon head over a shield and crossed swords on the flag, she remembered where she was, and why she was there. For a few months, Chandra Yeager had been the newest instructor to join the Dreadnought Battle Corps-sponsored Akala 3 Military Academy. Early in her time at the academy, she had to be excused from evening formation as she routinely experienced an anxiety attack in reaction to the ceremonial cannon fire. Staying indoors and feeling as though she were cowering from the sound of a blank shell being fired had been humiliating. In the months that followed, she had grudgingly come to realize that it was part of her life, that she would simply have to accept. Since that time, she had learned to stay late at night, so she could be alone to review her students' work. Because she had grown to strongly dislike how her peers always seemed to treat her, as though she were made of glass. They were always painfully polite, and made it ever so irritatingly clear they were aware of her struggles with post-traumatic stress resulting from her experiences on Twycross. Twycross had put her through hell, sure, but that didn't mean everyone around her had to treat her as though she were a live bomb. She sighed, leaning back in her chair. Twycross. What a hellhole. Chandra could only ever remember wanting to be a mech warrior. Thanks to that horrifying experience, she could barely handle running combat drills in a mech without losing it. Adrian Steele, the Marauder pilot who had arguably saved her, and certainly saved their company commander's life, had been given a medical discharge from the armed forces of the Federated Commonwealth following the events on Twycross, just as Chandra herself had. The difference was that he had dealt with the horrors he had experienced far better than she had. Everyone had different experiences, and even those who shared experiences dealt with them differently. She had to keep reminding herself of this to avoid the feeling of being inadequate next to him. Losing herself to the comparison would be a backslide in her recovery, a backslide she would not allow. Adrian was living out of the officers' residences on the base just as Chandra and the other instructors were. The officers' residences were really just an apartment building right next to the cadets, and the new Sydney branch of the Akala 3 Planetary Defense Militia's barracks buildings. The officers' apartments were fairly nice, at least, if a bit basic and lacking any real view. While Adrian was not an instructor, he had been assigned the living quarters in connection with his becoming a test pilot for a new assault mech being developed by Dreadnought Interstellar Industries. The proving grounds were just a few kilometers away. So it was a convenient and cost-effective way of giving him free room and board as part of his contract. She envied him. Chandra had been forced to hang up her Nero helmet except for the light duty of teaching her students proper mech operations in the field. It had been Adrian's idea for her to become an instructor. After her discharge, he'd been the only person able to break through to her and get her out of her lonely apartment. She would never have come out to Akala 3 were it not for him pushing her to do so for her own good. She had resisted initially, but he had eventually made her realize that she owed it to the next generation of soldiers to share with them her unique experiences and better prepare them for their futures in the military. He understood her better than anyone knew, and knew that if he had not used her selfless personality to pull her out of her shell, she would likely have gradually self-destructed. Can you tell it's been a little while since I've read this? Pardon. Adrian was arguably the best friend she could ever hope for. Despite his somewhat introverted personality, he was an inspiration to just about everyone around him. He was also quite possibly the best mech warrior that the Federation Commonwealth had ever produced. That was likely the reason for him being brought in as a test pilot by Dreadnought Interstellar almost immediately after his discharge from the AFFC. While Chandra and Adrian had gone out on a lone date before the events of Twycross, it quickly became clear that theirs was not a relationship intended for romance. They were more like siblings. Despite her efforts at adjusting to her new personal reality, and despite his proximity and status as a safe person in her mind, Chandra still felt alone and vulnerable in this place. After glancing at the softly illuminated chronometer on the wall, which read 0021, she decided she would head back to the officers' residences and see if he was still awake. The familiar thumping sound of mechs moving around outside the building broke her from her reverie. Taking a second or two to think about it, she realized there shouldn't have been any kind of patrols moving through that particular area in the city's edge for another 90 minutes. She groaned when she thought about the possibility of one of the cadets borrowing one of the training mechs for a bit of extracurricular training, a joyride, again. It had only happened once before, but it had happened on her watch. She still felt disappointed with herself over the entire incident. A promising young cadet had managed to use an intimate relationship that he had developed with one of the Academy's maintenance technicians to manipulate her into letting him take a training mech out without permission. While nobody had been hurt, the cadet was expelled from the Academy, and the technician had eventually been reassigned. Chandra did not know where either had ended up. She sighed and turned off her desktop computer. After a few more seconds of watching the Trivid display once again show her the results of the simulated battle from the previous afternoon, she turned it off as well. The afterimage of the catapult that had been on display lingered in her vision, frozen still, just as she had been on Twycross. She muttered a curse under her breath. She grabbed her cane and slowly stood up. Stretching out and letting her sore legs adjust to her weight once more. Her legs were a mishmash of bone and titanium, as well as muscle and medical tier myomer. That she still had original portions of her legs at all was fortunate, but it had been a long road to recovery. While the outright pain of the synthetic components had finally faded away something like a year ago, there was almost always stiffness, and often at least some form of mild irritation. She never let herself complain to those around her. Every time she began to think of uttering a complaint, she heard the voice of the dying soldier begging for her help, punctuated by the agonized moans and muffled screams of the other soldiers dying around her. Any complaint she might have expressed was instantly suppressed. She was alive. They were not. She had no right to whimper over mere inconveniences such as those she dealt with daily. When Chandra thought of how Adrian had lost his entire right arm when he went down on Twycross, she was reminded further of just how lucky she really was, at least physically. Fortunately, Adrian had wound up with a top-of-the-line prosthetic during his time on New Avalon after Twycross. In truth, most were unaware of his prosthesis, and Adrian preferred it that way. She felt a slight pang of jealousy as she thought about how he was able to hide his wounds so easily from the public eye. Her cane thumped on the tile floor with every other step as Chandra made her way across the massive Central Academy building to the integrated mech bay on the opposite side from the offices. She hated the way the soft sound echoed down the empty halls, reminding her of her disability, reminding her of her failure on Twycross, reminding her of those she had let die right in front of her. For the millionth time, her mind thought of so many things that she could have done differently to change the outcome of her encounter with that damn Jade Falcon Loki. She could have tried to walk forward, putting herself between the infantry and the enemy. Part of her mind argued she was being hit with so much enemy fire that she could barely stay upright. Another part of her mind screamed that she still should have at least tried. She could have used her jump jets to leap over the Loki and pull it away from the infantry. She could even have used her jump jets to lunge straight at the Loki itself, smashing herself against the enemy mech. Even if it had killed her, it may have saved the infantry that died because of her. If only she'd at least tried to be mobile instead of remaining stationary, and letting her catapult become a 65-ton punching bag for the clanner that destroyed her mech. Part of her mind argued she probably would not have succeeded in jumping even 50 meters before crashing down if she'd attempted such a jump with a gyro as damaged as hers was. Again, another part of her screamed back, she still should have tried. If only she'd done something differently. Perhaps she'd be dead, and they'd be alive. She gritted her teeth in disgust with her thoughts and prepared herself to unleash hell upon whoever had taken a mech out without permission. She opened the heavy metal door to the mech bay slowly, still seeing the dent her foot had put into it during the last incident, and remembering the pain it had caused her. What she saw as she entered the third level of the mech bay was far, far worse than anything she possibly could have imagined. Her heart sank, and she immediately took cover behind some nearby crates as quickly and quietly as she could, hobbling over to avoid using her cane and alerting anyone to her presence. Bodies. At least a dozen. The guards for the mech bay, as well as a couple of the technicians working late, had been murdered in the dead of night. There were people she did not recognize clustered around the cockpits of a pair of Academy chameleon battle mechs. There was small consolation in that those mechs were down for service, and several key components had been removed for rebuilding, but the intruders couldn't know that. At least, that was wasting their time. There were a number of other mechs of varying types from the Planetary Defense Militia in the bay, nearly all of which were more powerful and valuable than the chameleons. But the chameleons were understandably the most appealing target for the pirates to steal. The other mechs had much more sophisticated security systems and defensive measures compared to the Academy machines that were intended for use by numerous different cadets. The thought of security systems in the mechs caused her to wonder why no one had raised an alarm yet. The Academy had considerable surveillance systems. She realized that the intruders had done far more than just get into the Academy without triggering any alarms. They'd managed to get on-world without detection. Clearly, whoever had planned this operation had been extremely thorough. Several armed individuals were on the ground level, pushing supplies out to a waiting transport vehicle. A handful of others were gathered around the feet of the most valuable machine in the bay, Adrian Steele's Mad Cat, known affectionately as the Demoness. It was the very same Mad Cat that had been salvaged from Twycross after Steele had lost his generations-old family marauder, fighting against it to defend his retreating commander. Officially, in return for his good service, the refitted Mad Cat had become Steele's personal property after his discharge. Given the value of the machine, it was clear that someone important had pulled strings behind the scenes, but Chandra knew none of the details. Chandra heard the sound of mechs moving outside again. This time she could see them. A pockmarked Stinger, a pair of Wasps, and a Locust. All four were 20-ton machines that appeared to be aging variants from before the Succession Wars. It was possible, even likely, that each machine was centuries old. Their mismatched liveries made it clear this group was either a ragtag bunch of mercenaries or, more likely, pirates. Bile rose up in her throat as she watched the lance of pirate mechs circle the academy and militia barracks, as well as the officers' residences. Each of the four machines were primarily armed with a medium laser. The Wasps featured twin-tube short-range missile launchers as secondary weapons, but the anti-personnel machine guns carried by the Stinger and Locust were the greatest threat to her friends and students now. Her thoughts flashed back to the blood and gore of the infantryman, and his hand reaching out to her. Chandra began to wonder if she were about to witness yet another massacre. She began to think of things she could possibly do to help her situation. Everything she could think of ended in disaster. There were too many pirates. There was simply no possible way she could face them alone. She sat there hidden behind some crates on the 3rd level and began to cry silently to herself. She could feel herself freezing up. The soldier and instructor portions of her mind shouted at her that she was better disciplined than this, but she couldn't help it. There was nothing she could do under these circumstances. Any course of action she could think of felt like suicide. She heard a mech's cockpit hatch opening just a few meters away from her. In her growing panic, she'd not even noticed that the most recent addition to the Academy's stable of mechs, a 35-ton converted JR-7F Jenner, had been parked just below her. The Jenner was fully functional. She sat for a moment, staring at it. It was just 6 meters away. It looked like a kilometer from where she was sitting. There's no way anyone could make that distance without being noticed. She would just join the corpses below. A gunshot rang out from inside the mech bay, followed by the wet sound of a body hitting the ferrocrete floor after falling from a great height. The sound of the gunshot caused Chandra to jump and nearly knock a heavy torque wrench off one of the crates she was hiding behind. Silently pressing down on the torque wrench with her hand to keep it from slipping off and clattering to the metal floor under her, she looked out to see what had happened. A cold chill shot down her spine. One of the computer technicians who serviced the mechs for both the Academy and the militia, Jeanette Stevens, was lying on the bay floor below, some 3rd-level scaffolding. Her white turtleneck was slowly turning red over her breast, and a pool of blood was beginning to form under her head. She was not moving. In that moment, Chandra knew that if she did nothing, the cadets would likely meet the same fate. Realizing that the death of Jeanette had captured the attention of just about everyone in the mech bay, she seized her one opportunity. She cursed under her breath and tightened her grip on the torque wrench. A fit of rage shuddered through her, and she quickly ran the distance out to the Jenner. A man dressed similarly to that of the other pirates she had seen was halfway into the hatch when she grabbed him by the belt of his pants and whipped him out of the cockpit. The surprised man pushed back against her and reached for his pistol. She swiftly cracked him over the head with the heavy wrench as he began to draw his gun. While he somehow remained conscious, the impact was severe enough that he dropped his weapon. Disoriented and dazed, the man slipped and fell, tumbling down the side of the mech's torso. He let out a panicked scream as he fell off the mech. She never heard the sound of him hitting the ferrocrete as she dogged the hatch behind her. She had little time to act if she wished to save anyone she cared about. Tears continued to flow down her cheeks as she reached to plug in the hoses connecting her coolant vest to the life support system, only to realize she didn't have one. No, she whispered to herself. Without the vest to keep her body heat down, she would be cooked alive by the stifling heat that a mech, even as basic as a Jenner, would produce. She began to perspire just thinking about it. She took in a shaky, deep breath as she forced herself to calm down and try to overlook the missing piece of critical gear. She could ill afford to stop now. The pirates in the bay would surely react to their fallen comrade at any moment. She bit down on her lower lip as she muttered curses to herself. Her hands were shaking as she pulled the Neuro helmet from the cubby above, behind the headrest of the pilot's seat, and snugged it down over her head. She keyed in the command for combat mode cold start, followed by her personal access code to allow the computer to recognize her authority, as well as for the compatibility of her neural print. One could pilot a mech without having a pre-programmed setup, but it would cause a massive headache from the feedback. With an involuntary twitch, she mistyped her code, triggering a typical 10-second wait before she could try again. She clenched her shaking fists and pressed them to the helmet over her forehead as she let out a frustrated growl. Her mind slipped to the corpses of the infantrymen slewed about her smashed ejection seat on Twycross. The bloody hand reached out for her and suddenly disappeared as the computer beeped to inform her that 10 seconds had elapsed. She reached over and very slowly and deliberately rekeyed her access code, her heart pounding in her ears as the action tested her patience sorely. The computer accepted the code and began the cold start sequence for the mech's reactor. She knew it was risky and could cause a scram of the reactor if any number of things went wrong, but she didn't have time for a standard slow power-up. While she waited the few seconds for the cold start to engage, Chandra activated the Jenner's comm system. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Chandra Yeager of the Akala 3 Military Academy requesting... She stopped speaking when she saw a message on the display screen, stating flatly, no signal. The simple message told her that none of the communication frequencies were available. Everything was jammed. She let loose a frustrated howl. She buckled together the 6-point harness as she began to hear gunshots outside, punctuated by bullets ricocheting off the Jenner's hull. The intruders had clearly pieced together what was going on. As prepared as she could ever be, she grabbed the control sticks just as the interior lighting changed from white to red, and the sound of the mech's fusion reactor successfully thrumming to life filled the cockpit. Over it all, her fast and ragged breathing echoed in her helmet louder than anything else. She reached down to stow her cane so it would not fly out and strike her at some point during the commotion that she was sure to come, only to pause for a moment when she realized she didn't have it. She only had the torque wrench. She wiped at the tears with the back of her hand as she pondered the discovery. Reactor online. A cold yet soft, synthesized feminine voice filled her helmet, bringing her thoughts back to her situation. She quickly stowed the torque wrench into the lockable storage bin beside the pilot's seat and snugged the harness again. The display screens all began to light up in front of her, showing real-time telemetry and data feeds. Sensors online. 4 red lights in a row on an upper panel just to the right of her quickly flicked from red to green. Come on, come on, come on! She urged the machine, her voice cracking. Her knuckles began to turn bone white as she gripped the control sticks even tighter. Weapons online. An audible shudder passed through the mech as she felt the Jenner's actuators unlock, granting her full access to the controls of the machine. All systems nominal. Yes! She cried out in elation. Now, it was the pirate's turn to be shot at. She immediately stepped the Jenner forward and away from the scaffolding and turned to fire the mech's lasers at the densest cluster of pirates that she could spot, including by the heads of the chameleons. Being fired on by a full-fledged mech-class weaponry sent them all running like ants toward the exit, where their transport vehicles lay waiting for them. She gasped as her body was bathed in heat. The spike in reactor output to power the weapons unleashed what felt like hellfire into the mech's interior. Holding fire for a moment to allow the Jenner to cool down internally, she stomped through a group of the pirates, screaming in mixed terror, rage, and vengeful joy as she turned toward the barracks side exit and threw the throttle forward to maximum. I need a drink of water. Hey, Steela. How you doing? Out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of a small screwdriver falling from somewhere overhead in the cockpit. The screwdriver landed on one of the buttons hard enough for it to illuminate. It was just the external loudspeaker, so she didn't bother to turn it back off. For reasons she couldn't fathom, word must not have reached the lance of 4 light mechs outside the barracks until the very moment that she emerged from the mech bay at full speed, dashing straight for them and letting loose a banshee wail over the mech's external speakers. All 4 mechs looked startled as they turned toward her simultaneously. Chandra braced herself for the scorching heat as she unleashed a full volley of the Jenner's 4 medium lasers into the legs of the Stinger. Only 2 of them connected, but they both hit the same leg, punching through it mid-thigh, causing it to collapse. The surprised pirate mech warrior tried desperately to regain the mech's balance on its remaining leg, but the effort was in vain. The pirate machine crashed to the ground right in front of the barracks' main entrance. Her tears evaporated, momentarily fogging her neuro-helmet as the cockpit temperature spiked to the point of near intolerability. Feeling a pair of short-range missiles strike the side of the Jenner as several lasers slashed at her mech's armored hull, Chandra felt as if she were back in her catapult again, being torn apart by the clan Jade Falcon Loki. The memory of the dead infantryman clawed into her mind to torment her once more, but this time it was Adrian reaching for her, and it was her students that were dead in a pile of gore. She clenched her eyes shut so hard it hurt. She saw faint stars. "Piss off!" she cried to no one, and yet everyone at once. The sound of her voice was amplified by the mech to the outside world. She could feel herself losing control. "Piss off!" she screamed again, as loud as she could, trying to use her own curses to center herself on the present. Maybe a little too loud. A little too close to my mic there. I'm kind of popping a bit there with my puppies. Her eyes snapped back open as she remembered her one goal. She had to clear the path for the personnel in the barracks and officers' residences to reach the mech bay. If she failed here, it would be far more than just a single platoon's worth of infantry that paid the price for her failure. She had to lure the enemy mechs away. She had to get the pirate mechs to chase her. She stomped her mech's foot down onto the crippled Stinger's right arm and effectively snapped it in half. She jammed the throttle forward fully, screaming incoherent profanities as she shouldered her way past the Locust, knocking the lighter machine aside with relative ease and sending it stumbling several steps away. While the Stinger was effectively neutralized, the Locust still needed to be eliminated, as it still had anti-personnel weapons that could tear apart the cadets. The thought almost caused her to start thinking about the infantry on Twycross once more. Circling around the building at a speed that caused her Jenner's feet to start to skid on the Ferrocrete mid-turn, she fired 2 of her lasers into the upper body of one of the Wasps, and then turned to escape as quickly as she could. The last thing she saw of the barracks building before losing visual contact with the 3 mechs turning to pursue her, while, behind them, at least 50 people bolted from the barracks and residences toward the mech bay. Seconds later, she heard the sound of machine guns hitting the back of the Jenner, as well as seeing 3 different beams of coherent light from lasers, and a handful of short-range missiles flying past her mech, striking mostly dark office buildings nearby. With the Locust and each of the Wasps being armed with a single medium laser as primary weapon, Chandra knew that all 3 of the active pirate mechs were following her without looking at any of her displays. Her rear armor eroded as it became a cat-and-mouse game of ducking and dodging through the city, while Chandra tried to avoid civilian casualties as best she could, while also trying to keep the enemy mechs from getting too much of an easy shot at her. Eventually, the jump-capable Wasps began to fall behind because of the superior speed of the Jenner, which granted her just enough time to turn around and engage the faster ground-bound Locust that had easily kept up with her. Taking advantage of a straight stretch of tarmac with a line of sight with a line... I was eventually going to stumble over something. Pardon. Taking advantage of a straight stretch of tarmac with a line of large buildings on either side, she violently swung around and stopped cold to blaze away with her lasers into the lighter mech at point blank. The surprised Locust pilot could do nothing to evade. One of the lasers missed wide, while another struck the Locust in the right arm. Chandra's other 2 lasers found their mark and burned straight through the Locust's center of mass. The smaller mech wobbled forward 2 clumsy steps and then smashed headfirst into an office building. Hyperventilating, her eyes swimming with tears that evaporated nearly as quickly as her body produced them, she began to feel faint. Whether it was more from the heat of the cockpit or from the hyperventilation, she couldn't say. She threw her throttle forward again and began to turn around, only to feel the Jenner rock violently under her as she was pelted with short-range missiles from the Wasps that had caught up with her. Her dizziness did not help the mech's balance, and nearly caused the Jenner to trip and fall. Red warning lights flashed while alarms wailed at her for attention. As she ran around the office building that the Locust had crashed into, the Jenner's interior temperature suddenly spiked, nearly knocking the wind out of her. One of the Wasps had managed to damage the Jenner's reactor shielding severely. One more hit like that, she knew she was going to die. To make the situation even worse, an indicator was showing a damaged heat sink. Another indicator showed that the heat was building faster than the cooling system could dissipate it, even without her firing her weapons. A warning display showed she had an estimated 70 seconds until critical reactor overheat and automatic emergency shutdown. Having just taught her students about heat management the previous week, Chandra knew all too well the remaining time would be cut down considerably every time she fired any of her weapons. The increasingly unsteady Jenner crashed clumsily into the side of the office building, bouncing off it and nearly toppling to the ground. Her next step punched through the tarmac and stalled her forward progress while she pulled her mech's foot loose. She'd accidentally turned onto a stretch of tarmac that was not built for battle mech passage. Water suddenly exploded up along the mech's legs as she realized she'd managed to puncture a water main. As much as she wished she could remain there, and possibly use the escaping water to help cool the Jenner down, she knew every second spent stationary brought her closer to death as the pirates closed in on her. Risking even more heat buildup and reduced time before shutdown, she triggered her jump jets to lunge over the building to her left, and out onto a highway that she knew was safe to run on. 2 or 3 vehicles collided with one another as they swerved to avoid her landing mech. She knocked over 3 light poles and kicked through a portion of the highway's median to avoid stepping on the civilian vehicles as she stumbled forward, barely keeping the Jenner upright. She had to get off the highway, or else more civilians would be injured or killed. She quickly turned toward a large collection of warehouses just off the highway. She twisted her Jenner's torso to the left to look back as she turned from the highway and saw the Wasps land right where she herself had landed just seconds prior. She turned to face forward as the large building blocked her line of sight. A fraction of a second later, multiple flashes of enemy weapons fire illuminated her mech from behind, striking surrounding buildings and casting a shadow of her machine on the ground in front of her for just the briefest moment. She screamed for help, but her words were panicked, becoming nearly incomprehensible for anyone who could hear them. She knew that she'd moved too quickly away from the mech bay for anyone to catch up in time to save her. The Jenner would overheat long before inflicting enough damage to destroy the wasps pursuing her if she turned to fight. All she could do was try to run. More laser fire and short-range missiles reached out for her as her pursuers regained line of sight for a fraction of a second. One missile hit her before she managed to duck behind a hardened warehouse to use it for cover. An alternating high-low pitch warning informed her that her left arm had just seized at the shoulder. She felt panic gripping her. It felt like every breath drew her closer and closer to passing out. Her vision was beginning to float as the heat suffocated her. She just wanted to escape from it all. She just wanted to run away and hide. She didn't want to be here anymore. She just wanted to sleep. One of the wasps managed to jump up onto the roof of the hardened warehouse and opened fire. A direct hit to the Jenner's right hip knocked the mech out from under her. In a barely conscious condition, she couldn't hope to keep the mech upright, and the hit sent her careening into the side of the hardened structure. Her mech bounced off the armored wall and slammed to the ground on its back. With a single roll forward as the damaged leg separated at the hip, the long-nosed Jenner wound up lying nearly flat on its front, on top of a heavy civilian transport vehicle. The crushed vehicle propped up the front of her mech, holding the cockpit nearly level with the ground. In her dazed condition, she didn't know what she hit. She only knew she'd hit her head at some point during the fall. She dimly became aware of a chipped piece of tooth poking the side of her tongue as the coppery taste of blood filled her mouth. She'd bitten the inside of her cheek as she'd gone down. Reactor critically damaged. Emergency shutdown initiated. The emotionless female voice reported calmly the most terrifying thing Chandra could hear in that moment. The Jenner was dead. Through the now cracked and slightly broken ferroglass canopy, she could hear the sounds of mechs approaching as she began to lose consciousness. Just as she began to pass out altogether, the cold outside air circulating into the cockpit brought her back from the brink and breathed new life into her. She began to become slick with sweat as the interior temperature within the cockpit dropped down to a level where the sweat didn't instantly evaporate. Regaining motor control over her own body, she grabbed and weakly pulled the ejection handle. Nothing happened. She pulled it again with greater strength, and was once again rewarded. Let me start over, I just zoomed out of this. She pulled it again with greater strength and was once again rewarded with nothing. She let loose a string of incoherent profanities, cursing everything from the engineers who had designed the mech, the pirates, whatever higher power that may be, as she began to sob. She hastily unbuckled the seat's harness and pulled off the Nero helmet. She slipped out of the pilot seat and heard the clatter of the torque wrench as it slipped off her leg. It must have come loose during the mech's final tumble. She wondered if that's what had hit her. She'd never know for sure. She tried to undog the hatch only to discover that it had bent on impact with the wall. Her hands quickly began to burn from the hot metal as she tried with all her strength to open the hatch, but it wouldn't budge. Clearing tears from her eyes with the back of her hand, she looked around and realized that the frame of the cockpit had warped. With a cold chill, she realized that if the ejection system had worked, the canopy likely would not have blasted clear, and the ejection seat would almost certainly have killed her. She felt an embarrassing urge to apologize for the tirade of curses she had let loose. She slumped back into the pilot seat to see the two wasps looming over her like specters of death. Suddenly, out of the blue, she felt calm. She didn't know why. It was as though a burden had been lifted from her shoulders. The fear and terror went with it. It suddenly occurred to her that she had done what she had set out to do. It dawned on her that she had piloted a mech under the worst possible conditions and still accomplished her goal. She was still trembling, but as one of the wasps raised a barrel-ended arm taking aim at her, she noticed it wasn't just her that was trembling. Repeated vibrations were being transmitted through the fallen Jenner into the cockpit with rapid increasing intensity. She felt her heart swell in her chest and her throat try to squeeze itself shut as she realized that, for the first time since the ordeal had begun, she wasn't alone. The wasp that was aiming at her was slow to react. The other turned to see what was coming and immediately opened fire, with jump jets igniting as it tried to go evasive, forcing Chandra to immediately cover her ears as the painfully loud sound threatened to burst her eardrums inside the breached cockpit. She screamed against the increasing noise, her hands still tightly clasped over her ears as a flurry of missiles and laser fire exploded into the two pirate mechs and tore them both apart in an instant. The concussion nearly knocked the wind out of her as a wave of heat washed over the cockpit. The gyro of the jumping pirate mech burst out through its back, then landed hard on the tar mech and spun off to smash into the remaining leg of the Jenner, lodging itself against the fallen mech's inner thigh. The Wasp that had been standing over Chandra simply flopped onto the ground with a heavy thud, the cockpit of the pirate machine blown open from behind and smoking. Meanwhile, the jumping Wasp, sans gyro, rolled through the air out of control and crashed somewhere out of view. The impact was quite violent from what she could hear of it. Ears ringing and hands shaking as she lowered them from the sides of her head. Chandra looked out through the cracked and broken canopy to see Adrian Steele's Mad Cat the Demoness come into view at a full run. The 75-ton machine skidded to a halt next to the fallen Jenner, chunks of ferrocrete breaking away and scattering as the Mad Cat's blocky, three-toed bird-like feet dug in and sharply stopped the heavy machine. "Mech Warrior, you all right?" Adrian's voice boomed over the Demoness's external loudspeaker, loud enough to be heard clearly inside the compromised cockpit of the silent Jenner. With the dull throb of what was sure to be a massive headache already filling her skull, she reached over the transmit key with a shaky hand. Then she saw the radio indicator was blinking red, indicating it had been damaged. She then remembered the radio jamming, realized it wouldn't have worked anyway. Seeing the loudspeaker was somehow still active, she pulled the Nero helmet back on just as Adrian began to repeat his question. She spoke up softly. Yeah. I'm okay. Trapped in here, but I'm okay." There was a momentary silence. Chandra swore she could almost hear the gears grinding in her old friend's head. "Wait, Chandra? Chandra, is that you in that thing?" "Yeah, it's me. Are the..." Her voice caught in her throat until she swallowed dryly. "Are the cadets okay?" "They're fine. The instructors got them to safety while we got the militia mechs mobilized," he reported, his mech clearly looking around to make sure there were no additional pirates in the area. "Thank God," she half-whispered, laying her head back against the seat's headrest and closing her eyes. "God had nothing to do with it. You did." He paused for a moment. "Look, we managed to take out the local jamming. Learned there are more pirates hitting other parts of the city, as well as the proving grounds. I don't want to leave you like this, but go." She cut him off, opening her eyes and staring up at the imposing machine standing over her, as though she could lock her gaze with that of her friend inside of it. "I've done my part, now you do yours. I'll catch up with you later, after you finish making their lives a living hell." Adrian didn't argue. "Consider it done." Chandra watched as the Mad Cat turned abruptly and sprinted off at a remarkable rate of speed for a machine of its size. Her thoughts began to trail off after the mech had disappeared from view and the sound of its heavy footfalls faded, though she could vaguely hear the echoing sounds of fighting several kilometers away. As the adrenaline began to wear off, leaving her feeling lethargic, her eyes slipped down to the torque wrench on the floor. Rubbing her thighs absent-mindedly, she thought about how she had run the distance across the gantry to the Jenner minutes earlier, without thinking about it. She found herself smiling even as her eyes began filling with tears once more. For the first time she could remember, they were tears of joy. Maybe she didn't need the cane anymore. That night, for what felt to her like the first time in years, Chandra Yeager, Mech Warrior Chandra Yeager, slept soundly, without a trace of any nightmares. That's the end of the story, but it won't go to the next page. There we go. So that was Nightmares by Devin Ramsey. And I don't know that I'll dig into another one tonight, just because even after one, like I'm starting to feel it a little bit. I just got a fresh mug of tea, which I'm now going to enjoy. I can definitely see the need to do this more. As I said, I'm trying to sort of exercise my voice, flex the muscles more, and get used to this sort of reading. Oh, Hamburg Tack, thank you for the reminder. Zumatha, you write well. Like, really, I've I've paid money for worse pulp than that, my friend. And I love, I realize it's not for everybody, that sort of very, like, descriptive, action-oriented kind of fiction, but I really enjoy it. Why can't we have a Hollywood script like this, right, Quandom? There's never been a Battletech movie. You know what's weird is there aren't even many movies about mechs in general, Western ones. There's like Robot Jocks. The movie that nearly fucking that blew all the Ghoulies money for Full Moon Productions. And then there was like Robot Wars and Crash and Burn, but they both sucked like horribly. Thank you, Steela. No, really, please. Feedback is absolutely welcome. That was the first time I have just read fiction aloud to any. Well, again, not technically true. I've DM'd, obviously, before. I've read some of my own stuff, but this is still a unique experience. Robot Wars is terrible. Time stop. By the way, good to see you. Steela, welcome in. Thank you for saying so, Data Nerd. Did you like the story? There's Pacific Rim. Yes, oh, there is indeed Pacific Rim, Runic Raccoon. How could I possibly forget? Well, Dragon Printer, we did just finish the story Nightmares from Operation Lancaster. Just now. The good news is that this will be on... See, like, this is one of the things. Like, if I'm reading here something, like, I've considered opening up, like, Gaunt's Ghosts or some Dan Abnett stuff because I really, really like his writing. But if I do that here on the stream, I can't then have VOD up. Because then I'm, like, you know, chances of Black Library suing me for reading their stuff when I'm some little tiny fucking Twitch streamer, very, very minimal. But I wouldn't leave the VOD up if I did do it, just because, you know, then it's out there. I wouldn't mind doing it. I'd happily read some Gaunt's Ghosts to you folks, but yeah, I wouldn't be able to leave the VOD up. This I can leave the VOD up for, because these are stories that are owned by Sumitha. Thank you yet again for giving me permission to use this material. But I will, I'll leave that up. I'm happy, folks, if you out there in the community are a writer, and you'd like me to read your material live, I'm happy to do so. Yeah, Monkey Man, I noticed that myself. I had to kind of find my pauses and mentally remind myself to put in the at first I was just kind of reading, and then I was like, oh, okay, all right, we're telling a story. We're pacing it. We have to have that feeling, we have to have that emotion. And then I had to do voices, and I realized that, like, there's a good question. As a narrator, as a male narrator with a deep voice like me, how do you do female characters? Like, because I don't want to sound like Monty Python. Oh, hello, Adrian, yes. I just jumped into the Jedi without thinking. Is that you, Adrian? Like, nobody wants that. That's terrible. I am, of course, a lady. You can tell how much of a lady I am by my voice. Yeah, I was thinking for the next 3 we might double up on some of them. I wanna enjoy my tea and kind of relax for a little bit here. Honestly, Devin's writing, Sumitha's writing. Like, here's the thing, guys. And those of you who've known me for a while know this. I really, like, I encourage all artists at all times. But I'm never gonna blow smoke up anybody's ass. So I'm not gonna sit here and be like, Sumitha, you're the greatest writer on the history of the planet. You should be getting millions of dollars for everything that I'm not gonna tell you that. Like, the most honest and best compliment I can give? Really? Dude, you're a better fucking writer than many people who are paid to write Battletech fiction. There are people who got paid to write Battletech fiction for the last Kickstarter that are nowhere near as good at writing it as you are. There was some Battletech stuff in the last Kickstarter that was so fucking eye-rollingly bad that I didn't even finish it. I was just done. Oh, some of you might remember Stitches Malone, the character that I did for Cyberpunk Red. I don't even remember how he did that voice. What was it? It was like a bad movie New York voice. It was like rhinestone cowboy shit. It was terrible. That's not what I said, Sumitha. Yeah, that's what as soon as I realized I was going to be reading a female voice automat, I was just like, I'm just going to do a normal voice. I'm just going to do an even-toned voice, you know? Same thing for, like, the voice of the mech cockpit, which I only have a voice for that because I've played as many MechWarrior games as I have, and you've heard so many times, you know, the all systems nominal, weapons online. Doing voices takes a lot of practice, and you know, that's exactly what I'm trying to get. Listen to a lot of audiobooks. Usually male readers change their tone a little, make it gentler, but don't go full falsetto. Yeah, I don't want to go like full Bee Gees on it. Dr. Rhino, dude, thank you for hanging out. What did you... Like, really, give it to me. Did I... Negative feedback is welcome, too. I realize it's only a small sample. It's, like... The thing is, I do a lot of voices, like, just around, constantly. If you're just near me, you'll hear me do voices without even thinking about it. But it's getting over that hurdle of, oh, people are gonna hear this voice. Like, this voice is gonna be recorded. People are gonna be able to go back and be like, hey, listen to this asshole doing this voice. That makes it a little different, you know? Oh, thank you very much, Dr. Rhino. It's very kind of you to say. Trent Sparks, who reads a lot of BT books, does too girly a voice. Guy who reads Wheel of Time does great. Interesting. I might have to check out the Wheel of Time audiobooks then. Because, you know, I never finished reading Wheel of Time. I got as far as Winter's Heart. And, how did I pronounce sword? It's sword. You gotta really lean into the W. Sword. It's good to see you, by the way, Puck Duncher, and thank you yet again for your resubscription. I hope that you've been doing well. Yeah, you know, I didn't worry too much about that, Stila, just because I'm like, if I was, like, recording this for somebody, obviously it would be edited, and if I stumbled, I would just go back and re-record. And I'm like, you know, I'm live reading, like, that's just gonna happen, so I just didn't worry about it, I just kept going. Oh my god, it's Riot Sister. How you doing, Riot Sister? I don't have a button for hello there on this. I haven't used this overlay since we did Cyberpunk Red. I just modified it, so I'm sorry I can't push your button right now, Riot Sister. Ooh, that didn't sound right. Huh. Michael Kramer and Kate Redding. Thank you for that, Imogene. I'm gonna have to look into this. I might go and give that a listen. Did I say Federation Commonwealth? Hopefully none of them were too bad. You know, something that I did, Sumitha, and I'll have to apologize to you for this, I changed your wording in a couple places, just because I started to stumble over it, and my brain filled in some other words, and I just kind of kept going, hoping that I kept the meaning of it, and from what I saw, I generally did. But I don't think that happened too many times. And that is, again, something that I think is only an artifact of live reading. If I were recording something, I would obviously go back and give it a second take. Well, I'll finish my tea here, and we'll see if we've got a little time. Maybe start in on a second one, or maybe not. But maybe we make this like a weekly or monthly thing. I don't know. Is this? Here's the big question. Here's the big question for everybody who's been hanging out for the last little while. Was that enjoyable? Is this something that you would listen to on a semi-regular basis? Because it feels to me like really good practice. We like it when you E-Rad. I like it when you E-Rad too, Riot Sister. Well, okay. I suppose we will arrange to do it somewhat regularly then. I really would like to... I'm sure we'll do the rest of Operation Lancaster. We know a few authors, and if there's anything that anybody who's a member of the community would like me to read, something that you've written. Hey, X-Braun, it's good to see you. Mechanic, welcome in. Quandom, thank you for saying so. Zavarith, also much appreciated. Well, we'll start doing it. We'll start doing it regularly, because as I said, I'm looking to become involved with audiobook narration and with voiceover work and voice-based character work. So this can only be good for me. And frankly, I enjoy it. I like storytelling. I guess I could... I have written things. No, I don't need to. I don't need to dig that up. I haven't written anything for a good long time, and nothing that I've written is really fit for public consumption. But I'd be happy to read y'all's writing. And like I said, I'd love to do some stuff. Like maybe what we could do is if I'm gonna read something that's copyright protected. Like, because I love Dan Abnett's work. His work for 40K is fantastic. I love Gaunt's Ghosts. We could read some of that stuff. The only thing I don't want there to be is a recording of it like a VOD. You know? Like on YouTube or like here on Twitch. It would just have to be a live reading. Time to write some fanfic. If you've got writing you want me to read, I will be happy to just for the practice. I'm glad that the cadence didn't throw you off, Sumitha, because like I said, in the beginning I definitely felt myself kind of just going na 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 and like droning, and I had to take a step back and okay, we're telling a story. Let's put in the pauses. Let's give the time for things to settle in. You can read research publications. Oh my god. I mean, that's a thing. There's some, as I discovered when I started looking into doing audiobook narration, there's some very dry audiobooks out there. It's like technical manuals that people need read for, like blind people. I don't know if that's something I want to do. Probably not. I don't really want to read technical manuals, but obviously it does need doing. Puck Dunter, thank you for the reminder. Let me get a little bit of water while I'm at it. I'll read the Cosmic Rhino's lore. Throw it at me. Dr. Rhino, throw it at me. I'll fucking read it, dude. Absolutely. With pleasure. I guess I could dig into some of my old journals. I don't think I ever finished any of the things I would want to read. I'm pursuing too many things right now for me to seriously pursue writing. It would help with your diction. You're not wrong. And that's something that I was starting to stumble there towards the end. I'm noticing as a personal note, I was starting to stumble over my words a little bit more just as I got kind of tripping over my tongue, you know? If there isn't an update on my shrapnel submission in the coming months, I may have a certain story that could be a Thunderhead exclusive. Sumitha, I'd be happy to read it. Shorter stories could be nice for the stream too. Maybe read a 5 to 10 minute one, pause, read another one. Yeah, I think the pauses would be good. Pauses are definitely good. Because that was what? We just read for a little under an hour? It would have been? Hang on. Hang on a second here. Pause, look at some minis, read some more. I mean, hell yeah, we could work it into kind of a regular thing like that. Let me take a look at this here. How long is it? This isn't too bad. Dr. Rhino, you want me to read the lore? You want me to read your Cosmic Rhino's lore? Is that what you want? I'll do it right now. Why the hell not? You guys want to hear some lore for Dr. Rhino's 40K Space Marine chapter? It's true. It's true, Jungle Plague. Eventually, I was starting to not even see the words as close. This is why I need the practice. This is why I'm doing it right here. All right, let's give it a read. Hang on, I'll pull it up on my. I don't like reading off my monitor, but I don't have too much of a problem reading off my my tablet. And yeah, next time we do this, we'll start right in with Convictions by Devin Ramsey. Here we go, Dr. Rhino. Cosmic Rhino. I could do my Space Marine voice. My face is my shield. He who stands with me shall be my brother. Or we could go full Mad Lad and read it like Chaos, you know? We captured it for Chaos. Squad morale restored. All right. Let's go ahead and read a little bit of. You want the Chaos voice? The Cosmic Rhinos are a loyalist Space Marine chapter. No, we're not doing that. That's no. All right. Intro. The Cosmic Rhinos are a loyalist Space Marine chapter from the 23rd founding. Tempered by loss and bolstered by the will of the Emperor, they have become masters of shipboarding, siege-breaking, and rapid assault combat scenarios across a myriad of environments. In addition, this chapter has gained notoriety for their rather unusually high number of apothecaries and their willingness to render medical aid to human civilian populations. Motto: Lux Qualis Cometarum, Comet's Light. Chapter History. Though it is clear in Imperial records that the Cosmic Rhinos were created as part of the 23rd founding, substantial pieces of information regarding their early history have been lost or called into question due to conflicting information from multiple sources. Even the chapter themselves were not aware of who their parent chapter is. What is known is that the Cosmic Rhinos were designated to function as a fleet-based chapter in order to patrol and protect the border between the Goth sector and the Halo stars in the Segmentum Obscurus. Tasked with protecting Imperial worlds ranging from fully developed worlds to worlds just beginning the process of colonization, the Cosmic Rhinos work tirelessly and faithfully to protect the Imperium and its citizens. The border between the Goth sector and the Halo stars is a dangerous place. The region is largely unmapped, and warp travel can be incredibly hazardous if extreme care is not taken. The region is also home to many threats to the Imperium of Man. Notably among them are Chaos incursions due to the relative proximity to the Eye of Terror, as well as a myriad of Xenos threats. Chief among these Xenos threats is the presence of Drukhari raiders and pirates in the region. I said the word, Rhino. I said Drukhari. I didn't replace it with Dark Eldar. I just said it. Are you fucking proud of me? I said am I gonna get sued for saying the word Drukhari? Do I have to pay Games Workshop a fucking quarter? Yeah, I haven't. I do terrible accents. Absolutely awful accents when I try to do them. The Cosmic Rhinos display a particularly vehement hatred for the Drukhari and all Eldar spawn. Early in the chapter's life, while responding to an apparent call for aid by the people of planet Baladar, the Cosmic Rhinos' fleet would be ambushed by a significant party of Drukhari raiders in orbit. Caught flat-footed, the Cosmic Rhinos battled fiercely, attempting to wrest control of the conflict from their attacker. Unfortunately, the Xenos were cunning, and even as the Space Marines performed several successful boarding actions crippling Drukhari vessels, it was clear the tide was against them. When it seemed all hope was lost, along with nearly 3/4 of the Cosmic Rhino fleet and chapter members, the remaining Cosmic Rhinos all noted a strange light, as what appeared to be a strange comet appeared seemingly from nowhere. It sailed by the battle casting a bright blue-purple light. Shortly after the comet had passed, a detachment of salamanders translated out of warp space, coming to the aid of cosmic rhinos and the planet below. With the aid of the salamanders, the Drukhari were driven off and the planet's surface was retaken. The remaining members of the cosmic rhinos saw how the salamanders interacted with the citizens of the planet, and were determined to emulate them in this way of respect for the warriors who came to their aid. After what became known as the Fateful Night, the cosmic rhinos took the comet that had flown past the battlefield, seemingly heralding the arrival of help from other members of the Emperor's servants, as a sign from the Emperor of mankind. The remaining members of the cosmic rhinos, now numbering only 200 of the chapter's original 925, took to space to locate this comet again. Called the Emperor's Herald, the Herald, or simply the Comet, this massive primordial piece of ice, stone, and metal is approximately 1/5 the size of Luna, and travels a slow path across the border of the halo stars. When light catches the comet, it glows and reflects an iridescent and mesmerizing hue that seems to shift from blue to purple, depending on its relative position to the viewer. Or, as Dr. Rhino has spelled it, viewerer. It has become the site of the cosmic rhino's most sacred of traditions, the ritual. When the last 200 members of the chapter found the comet again, they took a transport to its surface, and even navigated into the comet via its many tunnels and natural fissures. They found veins of this iridescent ore that permeated the comet, giving it its color. It was decided that each Marine was to remove some of this material and return with it to the ship, whereupon it would be applied to the greaves and pauldrons of every Marine's armor, giving them the same blue-purple iridescent glow as the comet. This was done as an oath that would bring the same hope and promise of aid that the first passing of the comet heralded for them to all of mankind. Since that first trip by the remaining 200, all initiates to the chapter must undertake this final ritual to be fully inducted into the chapter. In other words, Dr. Rhino has come up with a lore-related excuse to use color-shifting iridescent paint from Turbodork. Appearance. Originally, the cosmic rhinos sported very simple black armor with gray pauldrons, though as previously mentioned, this changed after the first encounter with the comet. Now, each Marine that has undergone the ritual has the iridescent ore smelted into their pauldrons and greaves, some even adding it to their helms. Physically, the Marines feature gray, rough-textured skin and dark red eyes. Some members of the chapter display an additional mutation, the growth of a horn from the central space on their foreheads. It grows steadily over about a century to what seems to be a maximum size of roughly 26 centimeters. This horn is incredibly tough and sharp, capable of piercing even layers of ceramite if significant momentum is built up. Gross. Most members of the chapter with this mutation will actually modify their helms to allow the horn to protrude through, in a similar fashion to the Black Dragons. Is that a thing? Is that a thing? The Black Dragons have horns and they modify their... Okay. I didn't know that. Other members of the chapter feature artificial horns on their helms, the design of which, along with the helm itself, denotes status within the chapter hierarchy. They have horns and Wolverine claws. I had no idea. Ah yes, the sacred viewerer of the Baldara system. Do you not know of it, pleb? Post the Fateful Night. Following the establishment of the ritual in the wake of the Fateful Night and the depleted numbers of the chapter, Chapter Master Nox tasked his chief apothecary and his acolytes to find a solution to increase the pool of potential candidates for induction into the Cosmic Rhinos in order to bolster their ranks. The chief apothecary labored with this task for nearly 25 years. Many tests and theories proved to be failures, until they tried what was seemingly the simplest of solutions. The Cosmic Rhinos began tests to see if they could add female aspirants. Oh my god. Did you feel that? It was as if 1,000 YouTubers suddenly cried out and were suddenly silenced. With only minimal modification to the implantation process. Because it's the implanting. Because Wieners. The chapter found success, though with a much higher rate of rejection. In the beginning of the program, they should try buying them drinks first. In the beginning of the program, only 1 in 100 suitable female aspirants survived, though with time this ratio improved to 1 in 80. These new Astartes were quickly accepted by their brothers, both out of necessity and due to their heroism and skill. It was noted that many of the female Marines actually sported incredible marksmanship ability, exceeding that of most of their male kin. Upon the success of the procedure, Chapter Master Nox saw this as, while in violation of the word of the Codex Astartes, it was in line with the spirit of the text. Insert Leandros meme here. That was his name, right? Leandros? In Space Marine? The Codex Astartes does not support this action. As such, the chapter is very secretive about this process and mandates that helmets always be worn when near other Imperial forces to avoid unwanted attention from the Inquisition. The Ultima Founding. After the fateful night caused the loss of so many of the chapter's battle brothers as well as the many of their fleet vessels, the Cosmic Rhinos struggled to rebuild their chapter, never managing to fill their ranks above 500 Astartes. They continued to serve with distinction, however, protecting the citizens of the Imperium, and emulating the salamanders that had come to their aid those long years ago. The Cosmic Rhinos would go even one step further to begin a program of rendering medical aid to injured humans if the following conditions were met. 1. Marines are not currently engaged in combat in the immediate area. And 2. No Astartes require aid. This had the effect of making them beloved by the people in their region, though many other Astartes chapters would see their behavior as, at best, odd and eccentric, or, at worst, a waste of valuable time and resources on unworthy beings. While the Ultima Founding took place, the Cosmic Rhinos were down to just over 170 Space Marines, as several incursions from the Eye of Terror had left them significantly depleted. As fate would have it, when the reinforcements arrived in the form of enough Primaris Marines to bring the chapter back to nearly full chapter strength, as well as additional ships to restock their fleet, it was led by a representative of the Salamanders chapter, again coming to the Cosmic Rhinos' aid when they were needed most. Since the arrival of Primaris Marines and the process for creating them, the Cosmic Rhinos have adapted their process for creating female Marines. I'm tempted to do a joke every time I say that, but that's disrespectful. I think it's a neat idea. I've adapted their process for creating female Marines to the Primaris procedure. Doing so actually improved the survival rate of female aspirants to its current ratio of 1 in 35 survival. Improvements to the augmented procedure are now being made in rapid succession. The chief apothecary believes there will be a failure rate of less than 10% within the next century. Since the process of the Primaris Rubicon was introduced, all members of the Cosmic Rhinos have undergone the procedure. Both the Salamanders and Cosmic Rhinos remain unaware of the fact the Cosmic Rhinos are in fact sons of Vulcan and his Salamanders. Notable chapter connections. Ursidons. Responding to a distress call from the agri-world of Bulden, the Cosmic Rhinos encountered Tyranids for the first time, these being from Hive Fleet Kronos. Having had little to no experience fighting the Xenos before, the fighting was bitter and costly. This changed with the unexpected arrival of the Ursidons. Having heard that the Hive Fleet had been sighted in the sector, the Ursidons had searched them out, desiring the hunt they so love. This chapter had mastered combat against the Tyranids and was quick to share information that would allow the Cosmic Rhinos to turn the tide in their engagements. The two chapters quickly found that their preferred combat styles meshed well together, allowing them to deliver decisive blows to the Tyranid forces. By the end of the months-long conflict, the Ursidons and Cosmic Rhinos had developed a working respect for each other's chapters. This bond had only strengthened in the centuries following this first encounter. The chapters regularly send representatives to participate in combative tournaments and friendly duels with one another. This camaraderie has grown to a point where the Cosmic Rhinos have even begun honoring their brothers in arms by nicknaming and modifying the armor of one of their veteran Terminator squads to pay homage to the Ursidons and their fighting prowess. The squad is led by a veteran who goes by Grizz. That's what we have so far. There's a lovely little image here at the end showing how Dr. Rhino does love his color-shifting paint. 100 Reddit mods just had heart attacks. Oh man, yeah, 40K, man. I don't understand how anybody can get like anal retentive about 40K lore when maybe it's just that I've been like reading 40K and playing 40K for the better part of 30 years now, but there's a joke here in Colorado where they say, like, if you... female! Ugh. I hear those females are allowed to gain profit. Ugh. There's a saying here in Colorado where it's like, you know, if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes, it'll change. I feel like we could apply that to 40K. If you don't like the lore in 40K, give it a couple of years, it'll change. Trust me. None of it means a goddamn thing. The fun! The best part, guys. Folks, Locusts and Gentlemechs, the best part of 40K lore is the part that you write. That's always been the best part of it. It's one of the reasons that I don't have like that much interest or that much time for the big grand story beats of 40K. The stories of fucking Robert Gilliman and what's his nuts, or Belsaria's Call and all that shit. Because in my mind, the 40K universe only exists to provide background couching, a framing device for you to write your own story. And it troubles me that we live in a world now where people regard the word of the Black Library as more important than the stories that you create between one another and around the table, when that is like, there are many mediums where there is the canon primary storyline and that is what is important, and you can argue that things like Star Wars and Star Trek are that sort of thing. You can argue that even your Marvel comics, whose storylines change constantly and have multiverses, you can argue that that's important, but in a war game setting, that's what makes that setting different. That's what makes that setting special, is that you are the author. Each and every one of us are. The very concept of, think about the very idea of having a game where it is assumed that you, the customer, will buy an unfinished product, unbuilt, unpainted models, build them yourself, and paint them with schemes that you come up with out of your own imagination. Fundamentally, at its core, it is deepest root. It's about the story that you want to tell. So, Dr. Rhino's Marines have boobies. That's ultimately what I'm coming around to. Ultimately. Thank you for the reminder, Riot Sister. Oh, yeah, you always catch me slouching. Imagination is absolutely heresy. Yeah, no. Whatever, I got banned from the Warhammer 40K subreddit years ago because I put a chainsaw dick on an Imperial Knight. So maybe don't listen to me too much. That's how I view them, Sumatha. It's why I don't it's why I get into the conversation periodically about, like, why I really genuinely don't want the story of 40K to move along. Because that's not what 40K has ever been about, to me, at least. It sort of needs to stay stagnant, which I get that some people don't like, but to me it's an important part of it. Or if it's going to move along, it has to do it in a very vague and disconnected way, which it doesn't anymore. Now it's all about big heroes. Cookie Mama, thank you so much for the resub. Just popping in. Always glad to see you, Cookie Mama. Most people are lazy. They'd rather be told what the story... Yeah, you're not wrong, Ulfgar, and it provides some of that. Like, I feel like for those people, there was always, okay, we'll paint some Ultramarines, or paint some Imperial Fists, or even, do you want to get crazy? Paint some Crimson Fists. Paint some Carcharodons. Something wacky like that. If you don't necessarily want to create your own chapter like Dr. Rhino has, which, by the way, I do dig that story about the comet. That's pretty cool. Dr. Rhino, thank you for providing it. Thank you so much for popping out that gift sub. Runic Raccoon, I hope you enjoy it. I like this. I like the idea of being able to provide a platform. Like, if you like hearing me speak, for whatever reason that might be, and I won't read too much into it, ironically, if I can give a platform for something that you've written to be read that you want to hear, I'm happy to do so. I really am. Hamburg, thank you so much for the gift subs. Going out to Dragon Printer and Datanad. Oh god, that's where my brain is at, because I've been reading. Data Nerd. Hamburg, thank you so much. Baymax is Warhammer Canon. Thunderheads, I did say so. You're damn right, Drakari. No, Dr. Rhino, thank you for providing it. I'm happy to, really. I like reading what you guys have written. I like giving you a platform. Oh, I'm absolutely going to, Sumitha, and thank you for giving me the permission to do that. What about 50 Shades of Coal Gray? You've never provided me the full text. Chaotic Harmony. I slowly dragged my brush up and down the leg of Chaotic Harmony. How you doing? How you doing, man? It's good to see you. Someone who hates writing dialogue and character drama and loves world building. Why on earth would I care about a setting that just does all the world building and expects me to tell all the stories? You know, this is sort of a problem that we're running into in entertainment in general, Automat Americana, to address that somewhat seriously. Not everything is for everybody, but companies make more money if they water down their product to appeal to as many people as possible, and in so doing, alienate the fringe groups. Can I say that they're wrong to do so, in the sense that their job is essentially profit-seeking? I mean, no, I guess I really can't. Doesn't mean I have to like it, though. It's definitely alienated me on a number of occasions. Oh, I'm so sorry that you're feeling sick, Chaotic Harmony. We've just been doing some reading today. We just spent some time reading through... oh my god. I would love... Yeah, we need to do a duet, me and Chaotic. I got nothing on Chaotic Harmony's voice, though. I would slap a baby for his radio voice. It's out of fucking control. I agree, Datron Voltari. The story they're telling you is passed through the filter of their marketing department most of the time. You can't have the full text. It's too powerful for any one person to handle. Want to read my terrible backstory to the world of the campaign I ran for almost like 2 years? You know, honestly, I think we were going to do, Riot Sister just suggested this. Let's have a channel where people can submit text that they would like me to read, and I'm gonna be very, very clear. I'm not gonna promise anything. At no point will I promise, like, if you submit something, I will read it live. But if you would like something read live, I will certainly look it over and consider it, because, again, I need practice. Practice, practice, practice. And a good day to you, Tobin Lord. How you doing? Reads the dictionary sexily. Yeah. And now we get to the word feculent. F-E-C-U-L-E-N-T. Feculent. Yeah. Well, Dr. Rhino, you're obviously special. What is a man? Oh, that'd be it. I guess the question then, Chaotic Harmony, yeah, which would you prefer to be, Dracula or Simon? Tribute. You steal men's souls and make them your slaves. Perhaps the same could be said of all religions. Oh my god. Prognosticate in a Russian accent with a lisp? Prognosticate. Prognosticate. Okay, I see what you did there. Well, that's something. Boring but alright is certainly okay, too, but Tobin Lord. Does it have to be in... Yes, it has to be in English. I speak two languages, okay? English and bad English. And a little bit of Arabic, but I don't think I can read it anymore. La أريد أن أتكلم اللغة العربية. Oh my god, that's horrible. Oh, that's horrible, MSA. Let's never do that again. Had to make sure your ego didn't get too big with all your natural skill. Quit rubbing my rhubarb, Dr. Rhino. Most of what I've been writing has been poetry. I would read poetry. I have no issue with that. I just need things to read. I just need things to read. I need more practice, and I think that we're going to do nights like this somewhat regularly. I'll try to time it out so that I've got content to keep us going through for the whole stream. Got to listen to stories while playing OG Final Fantasy 1 on my stream deck. Not a bad evening, Gray Mail. I hope you enjoyed it. Started a new project. I think we might go ahead and start the Storm Report early. In fact, folks, I'm going to give 5-minute warning on the Storm Report. We're going to start at 15 minutes early, since I'm not going to start another story right now. So 5-minute warning on the Storm Report. We are going to start it at 8:15 Mountain Standard Time. Oh god, excuse me. And then after the stream, I'm going to clean up those Panthers. And I might not get pictures of them posted tonight, but I should be able to get some posted tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day. I've got arborists coming tomorrow to cut down a 60-foot birch that's in my yard. The tree is over 75 years old, and it is absolutely breaking my heart to see it come down. But it's dead. It's dead or so close to it that it doesn't matter. It declined so bad in the last 6 months, and it just makes me so sad. And it's just too big to leave there, because it's like, if it came down, it would destroy half the house that I live in. It's massive. I got to be real lucky and be here for its passing. Finally finished all the creative work in your diorama. I want to see it. I want to see it, Monkey Man. Nocturnal, thank you so much for the resub, hitting that 2 months. Always appreciate those Bezos bucks. Thank you for the support, man. I'm very excuse me. My voice might be a little scratchy during the Storm Report. I hope there isn't too much for me to read in there. I think I've actually been able to ramp up into this fairly nicely, because doing the stream regularly and talking as much as I do, if I had tried to do tonight cold after being quiet and reclusive for years, that would be terrible. But I have spent the last 2 years at least regularly talking here. That's good to know, Sumatha. I hope you, by the way, have been enjoying the Operation Lancaster art by Matt Plog that has been cycling on the screen here. Again, most of it is without any context, but it is wonderful art regardless. That particular piece, which is taken straight out of Terminator 2 Judgment Day. Don't think I didn't notice, Sumatha. Get to do all the walling and the sandbags and the barbed wire and the burgers and shell casings. One of these things is not like the others, Monkey Man. I hope you brought enough burgers for the whole class. That was all Plog, was it really? He really wanted to do the scene from Terminator 2? I mean, don't get me wrong, it's awesome. I see it, that's all. I guess it's kind of an old movie now. Slowly it's going to be only us old farts who are like, I remember Terminator 2, and they're like, oh, you mean Terminator 7. No, I mean 2. The one with Robert Patrick in it. Plog is an incredibly talented artist, and he did so much good work for Oplan. That's fair. I mean, it's a similar moment for Sarah Connor. Her just sort of grappling with her absolute terror at what the future might hold and the feeling of responsibility that she has for it. The responsibility to stop it. No, Robert Pattinson would never lower himself. Robert Pattinson would not now lower himself, let me correct that, to be in a Terminator sequel. I don't believe it. Right? Gross. Not now. No longer would he. Long ago are the days of Twilight and its various sequels. 1 minute warning, by the way, folks. I'm going to give you 60 seconds to get those entries in for the Storm Report, and then I'm going to go ahead and get started. How you doing tonight, Nona? He was in Tenet. I still haven't seen Tenet. People tell me that I should. Oh, that's cool, Sumatha. I definitely wouldn't have noticed. But I like that. You were forced to watch all of Twilight. Oh my god, I'm so sorry. GW's gonna make another 40K movie. Mafik, you may be one of the only people I know who acknowledges that Ultramarines happened. Well, Tobin Lord, if you're not a freshly pubescent teen girl, you probably wouldn't understand the hype of Twilight. Yeah, it's a real narrow window there, Puck Duncher. I'd work stuff to handle, so been off the paint palette, but getting back to finish my Thousand Suns night. Ooh, Nona, are we gonna get to see it? Are we gonna get to see your Thousand Suns night in the Storm Report? Please tell me that we are. Thousand Suns are in my top 3 Chaos Legions. I always love the over-the-top aesthetic of Thousand Suns. It ain't there yet. Oh, fair enough, fair enough. No rush. No rush. But when ready to show, please think of us. I'd very much like to see it. And speaking of the Storm Report, why don't we go ahead and get started? Where is it? How does my computer work? Oh, there's the button. This is how it does the thing. Wait. Oh no. It's not playing the voice clip. Oh, everything's broken. Eh. I don't think I ever finished up my Cyberpunk screen. Hang on, you know what? I can do it this way, though. We can do it this way. I'm gonna fix it. I'm just gonna go, like, manually over to here. You can see what I'm working on in Fusion currently. It's a thing. It's a thing. You can make wild guesses at what it might eventually be if you want. I just started it today, but why don't we go ahead and shift on over to the Storm Report.
Alright, Locusts and Gentle Mechs, get ready to feast your eyes on glowed paint and wet palettes with the occasional culinary atrocity thrown in on tonight's Storm Report. Brought to you by viewers like you.
Here we go, here we go, here we go. Let's have a look. Here we have up first from Mafik. My Mega Bloks Halo just arrived today, and it's an ODST Marine. Dropped in the wrong place. I like the ODST quite a lot. Yeah, I remember reading something about this. Like, when, like, there was... Lego won't do realistic guns? Is that it? Like, they have a policy against doing realistic guns. So Halo had to make a deal with Mega Bloks instead of Lego to make their figures. Is that correct? Or is that just some bullshit? War-related stuff. Okay, I was gonna say, because they've got, like, guns. They've got, like, laser guns and stuff. But not war-related stuff. Now, that policy lasts right up until they're asked to make models for something titled Star Wars. Now, of course, Star Wars... Well, that doesn't sound like it has anything to do with war. Right? Yeah. Okay, fair enough. It's the realistic fact. I guess, yeah, there's nobody in their right mind who would confuse Star Wars with anything even remotely realistic. Fair enough. Have a ban on realistic guns. Situation back when Bionicle came out had to be carefully restricted. It's kind of interesting. I can respect that policy. Like, I make fun, but I can respect that policy. Oh, that's interesting, Desert Owl. Is that true? They will not do that since their factory was taken over during World War II to make weapons. I did not know that part, and that is very interesting. Either way, it's a cool-looking figure. From Mega Bloks, I do love the ODST armor. Do you guys remember that short film that Neil Blomkamp did for the release of Halo ODST? It's just like a 5-minute video showing, like, the dude, he gets a flag because his brother dies in the war, and then he goes and he joins the Hell Jumpers, and he becomes ODST, and he drops in, and then they, like, fight a brute. That fucking short film was great. And it makes me really, really sad that because that was Neil Blomkamp, and it made me really sad that they snatched Aliens 4, I guess it would be, out from under him. I suggest you go back and watch it again, Mafik. It's fucking great. It's still good. It still looks really, really nice. Really, really cool figure, Mafik. And as always, I love your creative photography. I like how he comes with the ODST or Orbital Drop Shock Trooper Pod. Very cool. Here we have from Lore Friendly. Varnish the past 2 months of work, not quite the full army, but gives a good feel for how it'll look. Also gives a good feel in general. I do like a good feel. Get to add in 3 models in the back to my list after GW dropped some balance updates, so gotta base these and paint 16 models for Nova. Ah, yes, the last minute additions. What are these? Are those Wraiths? I am so woefully out of date with my knowledge on Necron models. They look like Wraiths, but then they also have these new crazy blades. They look like Wraiths with 4 arms. Is that what they are? What are they? I recognize Destroyers. I know that these new 3-legged things, these are fairly new. Ophidian Destroyers. Okay. Are Wraiths still a thing? I come from an ancient land where the only Necron units were like Destroyers, Heavy Destroyers, Wraiths, Flayed Ones, Pariahs, Warriors, Immortals, Spiders. That was kind of about it. Like, Pariahs aren't even a thing anymore, are they? I think they wrote Pariahs out of the lore, didn't they? That's sad. I always thought that was a cool idea. I continue to love this paint scheme, though. There's only so many times that I can gush about how simple and effective this is. I love it. I love seeing all these ones together, particularly with the basing going down. I look forward to seeing these bad boys get brought up to snuff. They're still a thing? Are they really? Yeah, the flayed ones are the ones with they skin people and they pull the skin over their metal skeletons. Well, damn nice and fairly speedy work, Lore Friendly. And damn good luck at Nova, by the way. You've got that paint scheme down, so it won't take you long to get caught up. Here we have from Rockin' Robin Workshop, Karl Franz, done for commission work. He wanted the Colombian flag instead of the normal flag, mainly because the flag wasn't in the box. Lol. Ooh. Vibrant. This is, I feel like I would almost always use that word to describe Rockin' Robin's workshop. It's so vibrant. Really nice job on that flag. How did you do that? Because that looks handmade. And I'm wondering if it's like the foil method, because that's something Dr. Rhino's been doing lately, is using foil to make flags and banners, and it has turned out really, really well for him, so I'm kind of curious how you did this one. Really nice work on it overall, though, and good job on the basing. I like the sort of battlefield aesthetic with the like hand-carved pikes sticking out here around the, it looks like cork, and then, you know, I don't know, you could use chopsticks for these for all I know. Came out excellent though. I love the fade on the beak in particular. That reads really, really well. And then the use of the really bright and vibrant red and yellow, it sticks out in that way that Old Empire always makes me think of, like Holy Roman Empire, and that always makes me think of really, really vibrant yellows. That is, in fact, a big bird. Old Hammer vibrancy with modern techniques and skill. Yeah, Rockin' Robin does not shy away from some Old Hammer classic colors. Off to New York City to try and break into public television. Gonna head down to the barrio and start himself a children's show. Here we have from 7-Up Man, my 2 kids, a friend, Wheezy, and I each painted a Clan Diamond Shark mini for my brother's birthday. None of us knew what the other would paint, but we used the iconic pick by Florian's spooky... Oh yes, we saw the other one last time, and this is what your daughter, 15, came up with. First of all, 15 is a strange name for a little girl. Maybe you're just like a really big Stranger Things fan. I don't know. I'm not going to judge. But I would say, based on this paint job, she must be at least in her early to mid-20s. That's the only thing that I'm going to accept. Because the alternative is for me to accept that there are kids in their young teens out there who are painting models at a level that I would have been very proud of in my mid-20s. And that's a blow to my ego that I just can't take right now, you know. So we're just gonna roll with the first interpretation. No, very, very nice, simple, effective. It looks again like just a good application of some smooth base coating, washing, a little bit of dry brushing. It reads very nicely. I like the kind of dirty metallics on the Nova Cat's weapons. Very nicely done. It's wonderful. It's always wonderful to me to see not just the amazing works of art that people in this community are capable of generating, but hearing about them encouraging the next generation to indulge in their artistic side. The circle is now complete. It's, I don't want to get melancholy with it. I'm just going to say that I wish there had been someone encouraging me at that point. And what you are doing is important. And please, keep encouraging them. Keep giving them the means. Keep giving them the outlet. Keep giving them the materials and the encouragement. Because this shows immense promise between this and the one that we saw from the last stream. Just lovely. Just lovely work. Rockin' Robin, I was going to ask you, we just got past yours. How'd you make the flag? What is this made of? Dr. Rhino lately has been doing things with foil, and I'm wondering how you did this one, because it looks handmade to me, but I can't place the technique. Paper from an inkjet printer. What did you do to it to get it to hold its shape? That's such a ridiculously simple solution. You can't just come in here and be like, it's just some paper. Elmer's glue. Oh, fuck you. I was waiting for some kind of like, I found this amazing thermoplastic material that you can mold with a hairdryer, and I did some paper and some fucking white glue. God damn it. It looks really good. Why do I overcomplicate things, Robin? This is why I need you around. This is why I need you around to occasionally just knock some fucking sense into me. It came out great. When it was drying, you just shaped it. You did a great job on him. I wouldn't have even thought of that. I would have absolutely overcomplicated that. Here we have from Shock21, a fun side project. Speed paint made the cart trivial, except for the metal parts. Really like how the veggies came out. The pig is kind of meh, as the skin tone gave me a lot of trouble. Don't think I got it quite right. It looks like a piggy to me. And yeah, speed paints really do help a lot with things that are heavily textured like the cart. This came out nice. I like the nice bright veggies that we've got in here. We've got some pumpkins and cucumbers and apples and tomatoes. Ooh, that looks nice. I wonder what I'm having for dinner. Just realized I'm not sure. Intriguing. Ever done the old white glue paper layering effect? It's an old trick from costume work that allows malleable stiff paper, seen on dioramas, often in a modern sense. I've seen people do that with for doing like posters, like propaganda posters and stuff on small diorama pieces, but never for anything large like a banner. Eats popcorn for dinner like a 7. It's okay. You're in good company, Raccoon. Oh, the wood grain in particular came out lovely. I think the metal looks pretty good. Something you might try for the metal. If you're using speed paints and you've got perhaps one of the only Games Workshop / Citadel products that I will wholeheartedly recommend is their dry brush compound, Necron compound. I love that shit. And it lasts forever. Unlike many of their other dry brush compounds, which will dry out and just become an unusable paste after a while, their Necron compound, as far as I can tell, never goes bad. I've had the same pot for years and I use it sparingly. But if you use the AP speed paint, what's the dark gray one called? Like Wraithlord Gray? Something like that. I think it's called Wraithlord Gray. A heavy coating of that, and then a light dry brush of Necron compound gives you this really nice kind of irony color. Give that a try next time if you have not yet. I think the pig came out well. I think a little color variation could help you on it, but all in all, I think the skin tone came out just fine. Just gunmetal and dark tone. Consider it. I instead of just painting it metal, just try painting it with the speed paint and then gently dry brushing it with the metal so you're just hitting the high points. It gives you a lot of really nice variation. Excuse me. I'm a grown-up. I'm having cut-up hot dogs and mac and cheese. Well, you have that right, Nocturnal Minis, and I'm proud of you. That came out nice, Shock. Here we have from Chaotic Concubine, Blood Angel Suppressors completed. Hit a bit of a motivation snag on these guys. The big-ass gun was intimidating. For some reason. Gee, I wonder why. I wonder what about this long, turgid, metallic rod could possibly be intimidating to someone like Chaotic Harmony. Mechanicus Standard Gray or Eshin Gray might be what you're thinking of. I'm thinking of the Army Painter one, Nona. Rather than the Citadel Contrast paints, I'm thinking of the Army Painter, their new line of speed paints. And I want to say it's called Wraithlord Gray. Or, that's not right either. Something Lord Gray. I think. But not the Citadel one. Gravelord Gray. Yeah, I knew it was something like that. Okay, I was completely wrong, but I'm gonna insist that I was right anyway. Thank you guys for correcting me. Suppressors, more like overcompensators. That joke works on a few levels because look at the compensator on the end of the barrel. Look at it. That's bigger than 6 inches, I'll tell you that much. Oh, these look really nice, Chaotic. Dude. So, Chaotic Harmony. Chaotic Harmony has been with the stream since I started streaming. And he's a great guy. Most of the time. And we have had the distinct pleasure of watching him... I don't want to say watching him start painting. I feel like you had been painting some Battletech minis before I ever knew you, Chaotic. And I don't want to in any way take credit for your growth as a painter, except insofar as being quite happy that we've had the opportunity to encourage you as much as we possibly can to keep painting, to keep doing more things, to keep trying new techniques. And you have come so damn far. And now you're painting more than I am. And you're basing... Honestly, your basing is some of the better basing I see on a regular basis. You do such a wonderful mix of textures and grit, and I always love seeing your work, man. Well, I do try to be honest, Sumitha. These look fucking great, Chaotic Harmony, and I'm always glad to hear that someone has overcome a little bit of a motivation problem, an artistic block, if you will. I'm currently there with my own painting. Like, I stare at my painting desk and I'm like, I'm gonna go make something in 3D instead, but I'll get over it. I always do. I think it's the fact that Dr. Rhino makes me feel like I've got broken hands sometimes. I'll get over it eventually. Yeah, what is your secret? Could it be that one day in chat you were like, I want to get some great basing flock, and you entered !Rainy River in chat and you followed the link to Rainy River Designs where you picked up some awesome flocking mixtures? Could it be? Is that possible? If you haven't, you should try it. There it is. There's the one. Really nice work, Chaotic. Here we have from Squared. Went home for a week just to get some time away from work and the daily routine. Visited the Wachusett Reservoir. The old stone church there is one of the few buildings to still exist prior to the state of Massachusetts flooding a number of towns to build the Wachusett and Quabbin reservoirs. Ooh. Well, that's just lovely. God, I'm living in such a parched place right now. Such a parched place, it's just wonderful to see green trees. Everything where I am is just slowly dying. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. If you have any closer shots of the church, I'd certainly love to see them. Moisture indeed. Puckduncher knows what I'm talking about. Holy hell. I hope you had a wonderful trip, Squared. Here we have from Ren Momo, more Vitrian Dragoons. Oh yeah, those are coming together real nice. Real nice indeed. Your work has gotten so... This is another one. I've gotten to see Ren paint a lot of things since Ren has started frequenting the stream. And getting to watch improvement happen is wonderful. I think that the improvement that I've seen mostly in Ren Momo has been in brush control and slowly applying washes a little more thoroughly to build up more contrast. I find myself encouraging the same things in a lot of painters, but those are the basics that so many of us tend to struggle with. Vitrians need mirror armor. Yeah, I mean, you know. Yeah, well, no, it wasn't always mirrored. Puckduncher, if you remember in the books, because you read Abnet as well, their armor would appear normal, and they had a switch they could flick that would cause the links to rotate, and then that would reveal the glass side of their armor. The mirrored, refractive portion of it. So they didn't always look like they had mirrored armor. Technically. Yeah, get in there with an alcohol pen, right? I live in a desert, so I want water. I live in a place that is slowly becoming a desert, Monkey Man. Really nice work, though, Ren. And like I said, so much cleaner, and I love what you're doing with washes now. I want you to do more dry brushing. You're definitely doing it down here on the base, and that's awesome, but I just want some more highlights on the armor to bring some of the focal points up onto your guys. The metallics are looking nice. What is water? A desert owl wouldn't know. Here we have from the Happy Heretic. Finished my Strigoi for Carnival today. Like how Grimdark the gang... Can I say that Striga and Strigoi are like two of my favorite words? Not in the English language, because they're not English words. But they're just some of my favorite, like, words for vampire, basically. Like how Grimdark the gang looks. Not terribly happy with the blonde-haired chick, but other than that, I'm satisfied. I just gotta con someone else into playing Carnival. You can see them on the tabletop. You know, right now I'm watching Star Trek Voyager Season 1, and I gotta say, I'm not terribly happy with the blonde-haired chick either. Oh, damn, those reds! The reds are wonderful. This one is rich, almost purple. And you've been doing contrast and or speed paint plus oil washes, am I right? Armata Strigoi. That's a great song. It's funny because I also just the other day rewatched the first episode of The Boys, Season 1 Sumatha, and all I can hear when I see that is, well, 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 if it ain't the invisible cunt. I fucking forgot how wonderful Carl Urban is in that show from the very beginning. He's so fucking good. When it translucent like starts to beat the crap out of him, and he just gets that crazy look in his eyes and just spits blood right into his face, and you're like, ew. And then he's just an invisible guy covered with blood so he can see him. I'm like, oh, that's genius. Okay. TNG or bust. A TNG, I mean, and bust, you know what I mean? Voyager is easily the second best Star Trek show. Now, actually, I'll be honest. Rewatching Voyager Season 1, I don't mind Kes as much as I remember minding Kes. I feel like Kes gets worse as time goes on, because by the time Kes leaves the show, it's definitely like, ugh. Maybe it's just her weird romantic triangle with Tom Paris and Neelix that makes her kind of insufferable. Or that weird episode where she goes into her Ocampa breeding cycle, which is just the most nauseating thing. Yeah, the writers never knew what to do with her. She was just kind of there, and it was like always strange because she's like 2 years old and having romantic relationships with the crew. Like, wow, the Okampa are really an uncomfortable species. That and a lot of her storylines had to do with the Kazon, and the Kazon are just gross and unbelievable. I have a hard time buying the Kazon as a threat or even as a species. Ew, wombat. Knowing how the comic went versus the show, honestly don't know if the boys intends to go to the same place or not, and I really appreciate that. So I've read some of the comic since I started watching the show, Datron Voltari. I feel like, and I don't know because I haven't read all of it, I'm not a huge fan of Garth Ennis's work. I feel like the show is better. It's certainly very, very different. It's like they took the aesthetics and the broad concepts and they're really doing their own thing with it. I appreciate that after some of what I read. Like, Starlight didn't seem to be a character at all in the books. And she's much more fleshed out in the show. The Kazon are discount Klingons. Yeah, but they're like discount Mad Max Klingons that are after water. And I just have a hard time believing that a species has warp drive and can't get water from like comets or moons or just gathering it up from clouds, asteroid belts. Water's fucking everywhere in space. Okay, like, water is not everywhere in space if you have sublight drives. Water's everywhere in space if you have fucking warp drive. You can go anywhere and get it. It's ridiculous. Both in characterization and story, and then Carl Urban. Yeah, and I expected that Carl Urban would just be, like, the star of the show. And as much as Carl Urban smears the screen with his acting chops in The Boys, and like, he's amazing in it. And then you get, you know, Jack Quaid as Huey, who's fucking amazing, and you get, I can't think of Homelander's name. That actor, who's also fucking incredible, just blew all of our minds. Oh, Puck Duncher, thank you for the... You know what? I'm out of water. I'm out of water. Give me a second. I'm going to grab some more water. I'll be right back and we'll continue. Yes, Anthony Starr, thank you. I'm considering giving Banshee another try. I don't think I was ready for it the first time I tried to watch it. I didn't really know what it was. I didn't expect it to be quite so, trashy. I think that might not be a nice word, but I feel like it's accurate. I might have to go back to it though. It was like watching like a seedy pulp novel. I thought it would be different. Please do, Steela Rebel. I always love to hear from you, Steela. So please send me a video. Keep me up to date on what's going on in Steeland, as it were. And thank you so much for hanging out tonight. I hope you had fun. Alright, let's keep going. Is that true? Garrett Wayne got fucked over that much? I know that he pretty much got sidelined. I didn't realize it was quite that bad, though. Just started watching The Boys with my friend. Well, no spoilers then, folks. I realized that we're 3 seasons in, and we're about to have the finale for Season 3. All I will tell you, Monkey Man, is that I'm pretty hard. I realize you're new to the stream. I'm a pretty big cinephile. I'm a big show watcher. I talk a lot about my opinions on here. I'm also a big believer in not spoiling things. I'm really, really harsh on shows. And I realize that you don't know specifically what I'm hard on, so it's hard to take my opinion with anything but a grain of salt, but I will say that, in my opinion, The Boys is one of the very, very few shows on television that has gotten better with each consecutive season. Season 1 is great. Season 2 is better. Season 3 so far is even fucking better. But no spoils. Please, please enjoy that show. Tell me what you love and I'll tell you why you're wrong. Yeah. By the way, Roland, are you here? I haven't had a chance to fucking lay into you yet over Star Trek Strange New Worlds, buddy. I'm sorry, I got distracted from looking at these awesome Carnival minis, but can I just say, the reds here are so fucking hot. The whole color scheme. Yeah, it's very grimdark, but it also, with those vibrant, punchy reds, I get a real, like, Sin City vibe. You know? I really like it. Lovely. Lovely work, Happy Heretic. You don't think he's here? Maybe he's hiding in the corner. Because I'm going to be like, fucking Strange New World, you got me to watch Star Trek again, and I hate it. He did. He convinced me to watch Strange New Worlds, and I watched 9 episodes of it, and I'm just like, I started to have hope, and then I'm like, I'm Charlie Brown, you know, and Alex Kurtzman is Lucy holding the football, and now I'm flat on my back again. So it's a dated reference, but it checks out. Okay, let's keep going. Here we have from White Wolf. It's that time of the week again. Make the streamer hungry part. Because it's Tuesday and there's nothing quite like a delicious plate of soft tacos. Oh, you got some of that guacamole in there, some fresh tomate, little bit of lettuce. I'm really glad dinner is right after this. Hope in modern Star Trek? I mean, not much. Not much, Nona. I don't want to go too much into the details. I just want to say that the latest episode of Strange New Worlds, like, it wasn't very hopeful to me. I started to have hope, and then that hope was dashed against the rocks. It started when I watched Starfleet shoot an alien ship, and then watch it tumble disabled into the atmosphere of a planet, and their reaction to it was going, they shouldn't have shot at us. Nobody was like, hey, beam the crew over. Nobody was like, hey, check for survivors. They were just like, fuck them, they deserved it. And I'm like, that's probably not great. And as of the latest episode, I'm just, bleh. I won't lay into it too much. If you like the show, you like the show. It's perfectly fine. It's just, it's not what I'm looking for out of Star Trek, so I rage. I rage against the machine that is run by Alex Kurtzman and fucking Akiva Goldsman. Oh my god. Oh, Sumitha, I know precisely what you're talking about. It's etched into my memory forever. I will say, though, that Anson Mount as Captain Christopher Pike, as far as raw performances go, he's great. And it makes me sad that they're giving him poo-poo writing. I'll take this moment to mention, folks, if you haven't watched Severance, which is on Apple TV Plus, and I know you probably don't want to hear you should watch something on Apple TV Plus, but even if all you do is get it for 1 month to just binge the first season, Severance. Watch it. It's so good. And if you like Star Trek, The Orville. Watch it. It's so good. It's not perfect. I don't think it's as good as Severance, but it feels like Star Trek to me. Proper Star Trek. Here we have from Puck Duncher. Oh my. What's this? I haven't submitted something in over a year at this point. Anyway, here's one of the models I've been working on for quite a while. God damn. Is this a mod, or is this... Now, this is Lumineth, but I don't keep up on the model releases for Lumineth, or even just for Age of Sigmar. Is this a mod, or is this something that... Like, this isn't standard. You did this, didn't you? Oh, I have, to Square. All the currently available episodes. And I will say that For All Mankind seems to be on kind of a downward slope for me, but it started off very high. Modified the 2 versions of the kit together. Okay. Alright, Merlin Models, thank you for the reminder. And you added the Zombo. Okay, that's what I was wondering about. Nice work on the gore effects. I like these. I don't remember what these are called, but they've got toe beans. I'm always excited when I see Commander Mittens painting these guys for Lumineth, because we get to see the toe beans. Oh, this has come out wonderfully. I'm loving the layering that you have on the upturned fabric. I'm really liking the texture work that you're doing on the coat for the mount, across the tail, on the shoulders. The armor looks great. The stabbed Zombo is really a very nice touch, and wonderful work on the basing. A good diversity of texture, grit size, color, the use of the flower tufts as well as the grass tufts. There's just a wonderful variety that makes it feel very, very real to me. Oh, is she really? That's very exciting, Nona. Lake Courser. Okay. Yeah, I'm aware of the Luminath kits, and I think that they're pretty cool, but I do not follow their releases, so I don't ever remember the names of any of them. I am just tickled fucking pink to know that you've been continuing to work on models all this time, Puck Duncher. It's wonderful. Wonderful to see you again, and I hope that we don't have to wait another year before we see some more of your work, because, damn. Please continue to share. Really, really nice brush control, getting all the filigree. The gold around the edges, too. And I like the alternating red and white on his crest, on his helmet there. Lovely work. Never stopped. Will never stop never stopping, and please never stop sharing. Here we have from Amish Stig. How obvious is a zenithal undertone supposed to be? Not sure whether I laid the base color on too thick or if I'm just not practiced enough to see the variations in tone. Use the warm gray over black primer if it matters helps. So take this second one and put it out of your head. Not practiced enough to see the variations in tone is bullshit. This is not a thing. You want it to look good to the untrained eye. So if you did a zenithal pre-shade and then put your base over it, I would say that you probably put your base tone on too thick over top. I'll tell you what I'd love to see from you, Amish Stig, is a picture of your pre-shade before you put on your base tone. Like a before-after. A good rule of thumb, particularly for airbrushing, with a lot of things. I apply this to, like, construction, too. But for airbrushing, just remember that you can always add more paint. It is, however, very, very difficult to remove paint. So always go as thin as you possibly can, and then stop and take a look at it until you're comfortable with it. And then, you know, come back to it later and add more if you feel like it needs to be thicker. But yeah, it looks like you pretty much knocked your zenithal out almost entirely, if that's what you had been doing, because this looks fairly flat. That's not to say that you need to go back and redo this or anything. If you're looking for sort of a smooth zenithal build-up or some lighter tones, like you could get away with on a model like this, with the hard edges and the rivets and the details and everything, you could get away with using a makeup brush to just dry brush some lighter olive tones in there. Remember the 2 thin coats rule for airbrushes? Triple that. Yeah, good thinking, Nona. Just remember with an airbrush, you can lay down a layer of paint as thin as 1 micron, and getting to a point where you can do that reliably, like that's the skill involved with an airbrush. At least for me, because I don't try to do super fine work with it. Do not have one, sadly, but good to know. Extra Eyes helps this airbrush wielding. Yep, nope, Amish Stig, I'm always happy to give what assistance I can, but yeah, you more or less knocked the zenithal out from the look of things. If it were me, again, I would probably just go to town on this thing, dry brushing with a makeup brush, rather than starting over. Next time you do a zenithal, though, do me a favor, take a picture of the zenithal before you put down the base coat, and let me see it. Because it should be pretty stark. You want that zenithal pre-shade, very high contrast for it to be effective. And yeah, practice laying down really thin but even coats with the airbrush, and always remember, it's easy to add more paint. It's almost impossible to take paint off. Well, not almost impossible, but, you know, effectively, you know, without starting over. Here we have from Nocturnal Miniatures, start of my Death Company Blood Angels for Horus Heresy. Ooh-wee, I do love me some Blood Angels. Red and yellow. Is this the new Contemptor? It's coming together nice. Well, it seems like a damn good start, Nocturnal. Yeah, okay, I was about to say, are they supposed to be Death Company? Because I saw the black, and then I realized, yeah, you said that, start of your Death Company. I was like, oh. Okay, thus the black panels. Makes a lot of sense out of it. Well, hey. Keep up the good work. See, a lot of people doing Horus Heresy stuff these days. I guess it makes sense, but with that being released fairly recently, I do love those 30K designs, so please feel free to share more with us. Here we have from This Mechanic Games. Yeah, and the blood tier. Yeah, right there on the front. That's kind of a dead giveaway. Finished painting the human fighter I was working on. Started painting this mini that's going to be used as a paladin. Ooh. So I'm going to guess that you've got, like, some more blending, some more glazing to go here to smooth this out. And what we have here is a clearly laid out, like, reflective line for a volumetric highlight going right down the center of the shield. I will just say, well chosen. That reads nicely. I really like the color of the fabric you have down here, too. It's sort of a very slightly purplish blue. And I think going next to this red that seems to have a little bit of blue in the shadows, that reads really, really nicely. I'm very curious what your metallic rim, what color you're going to wind up going with on the metallic rim and then this eagle here. Very, very curious about that. Wonderful, wonderful start mechanic. Like, really, this shield, this is a fantastic start. Your first freehand, that blood tier, I mean, it reads clear. It reads as exactly what it's supposed to be, which, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the best compliments that I have ever personally got for freehand. It looks like what you meant it to look like. Here we have from Wombat Combat. Notice I still need to touch up the tiny ball on the bottom of the half. That's what she said. Forgot that was there. But the cloth looks about as faded as I wanted. They pleased. Started painting multiple minis at once with the oils too. Oh my god. What have we done? What kind of monster have we created in the Oil Baron Wombat Combat? This is sickening. The only thing more sickening is when you realize how easily he does it. I don't want to... I don't want to, like... I realize this is like my thing, is the encouragement. I don't want to encourage this too much. Because it's too much of a blow to my ego. Oh, it looks so good, though. God damn it. Wombat. Again, very, very clear reading volumetric highlights. It looks more and more like metal every time I come back to it. I'm just going to say, don't overdo it. Don't overdo it. You are, like, right on the edge here. I would say just refine. This is looking beautiful. Beautiful. I don't want to imagine that, Wombat. We're just gonna put that right out of our head. Here we have from Chryssala. Since these prints didn't turn out great on account of dirty rinse water, decided to make them into rusty shit buckets. Oh yeah, that's right. We saw these guys last time. Still need a few more tweaks to the model. Then it'll be ready for production. Got that dauber coming together. He's got good proportions, and I love his big, like, CRT style head. You know, once some paint goes down on him and using the kind of rusty paint scheme, the print imperfections are just not all that noticeable. Yeah, the details are a little soft, but that happens to a lot of printed figures. You might consider something other than red. Just because he's a rusty shit bucket, he's got a lot of red. Something like a blue or a green would probably read really, really well. The red looks good, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, as far as adding in a little bit more television contrast, I think that would read really nicely. It's a cool design. You can see it much more clearly once paint actually starts going down. Might paint a crack on one of the faces. Well, that I want to see. That I want to see, Chryssala. Here we have from the Tobin Lord. Wasn't able to get a lot of art yesterday, but I wanted to share something. Is this like a like a commentary on modern society? Is this like a personal attack, saying I watch too much television? Speaking of TV, Kun. I like. There are a lot of artists out there. That's a dumb statement, Toby and Lord. It's a dumb thing for me to say. There's a lot of artists out there. Of course there are. I like the way you draw human proportions, though, Toby and Lord. You have a certain... There is a softness. There is a... I hesitate to use the word, but doughiness to the way that you do human proportions and bodies that I just find... I don't know, more honest? Less, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't don't even know if that's right, Wombat. It's not even necessarily less idealized as less, less exaggerated, less fantastical, less fabricated. These are all good words. By the way, good to see you, Gene Slicer. Oh, this is just a lovely, lovely piece, Toe Bean. But then I always like seeing your work. It's just a shame that all she can get on the beach is static. I guess that makes sense. Look at those rabbit ears. Lovely work, and as I said, I continue to love your proportions. Here we have from Runic Raccoon, a work in progress from today's stream. Oh, this is gonna be such a cool piece. Look at that. First of all, Harlequins. And this is fantastic. I don't know how much time it takes you personally to do patterns like this, but this is reading wonderfully, and I always love when people take the time to make their Harlequins genuinely interesting. It reads really, really well. I would say those are the two things that read the best. If this was your first time doing the lensing effect on gems, it reads well. You've divided the color and the glare up well. The glare spot is clear and reads nicely. I love the sort of motley colors you have going on with the green and the purples. And yeah, this freehand is coming together excellently. Also, loving the non-metallic metal that you have here on this wide belt/girdle. This is going to look fan-fucking-tastic. Keep this up. People who paint Harlequins are deep down masochists. I don't know that you're allowed to make comments like that, Dr. Rhino. Has everyone seen Dr. Rhino's recent video with Play on Tabletop where he's casually like, oh, I just custom converted and painted both armies we're going to be playing with today. No big deal. I just freehanded on the shield of every fucking Sister of Battle on the board. No big deal. Masochists, he says. Good lord. No, Runic, that came together wonderfully. I can't wait to see where this piece goes. Here we have from Automat Americana. Caught me a bit flat-footed with the sudden storm report, so the mystery mech is very much a work in progress right now. Also knocked out a mite for someone I know. Oh, look at the little fella. Does it have guns? It has one. I'm not even familiar with the mite. It doesn't seem like it has much going on. It looks like a TIE mech, like it has twin ion engines sticking out of its back, doesn't it? And here's our mystery mech with its funny little bubble cockpit that looks like it should disconnect. Reminds me vaguely of the Raijin, but feels wrong. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm curious, but I'm not sure. Wouldn't have painted this, but it was a commission. Well, keep up the damn good work, man. The second you start putting down those checkers, you're a lost cause. Yeah, it's something that not even... I did that Harlequin effect one time when I was painting a Flower Knight from Kingdom Death for a friend to use as a Avatar of Cain for a Harlequin army. I did some of the checker patterns and the motley and quartered patterns, and it nearly killed me. I was done after that. The Mite's a last-ditch mech from the Succession Wars, only as powerful enough for a small laser. Huh. Interesting. Somehow I'd never heard of it, which is odd because that's like my favorite part of the Battletech lore, but I guess for whatever reason it just never crossed my brain. I like it. It's a funny-looking little thing. And it really supports my contention that one of the best things about the Succession Wars is by the end of it, if it had two legs, a gyro, and it could shoot literally anything, it was better than nothing at all. Painting these yellow stripes on blue armor already makes me suffer. Checkers on anything smaller than Carapace Place sounds like incoming arthritis. I feel you, Nona, I do. And my favorite thing about commissions is you force yourself out of your comfort zone. It really helps me get better. Yeah, you know, Runic, part of that for me too is I don't have to make decisions, and that's one of the things I'm worst at when painting models. It's something I'm trying to get over, is just making decisions and sticking with them for color schemes. If someone else can just tell me, do these colors go, and I don't have to think about it, like, as long as you're happy, and then I can just work, you know? I'd use this model as a proxy for the Wasp Lamb. I can see that. apocryphal 10-ton super light battle mech. Okay. Where was it? Was it in a TRO that I haven't read? I mean, probably. Oh boy, here we have from Monkey Man. Oh. Now, when you said diorama, you weren't kidding. This is gonna be a big boy, isn't it? For scale, we've got a Rhino over here, and it looks like a collapsed Imperial Fist Contemptor. But yeah, working out the trench system, using what looks like double-layered XPS insulation foam, hand-carving craters for the no man's land? Ooh. Okay. Alright. We've got it slated out here. We're going to have a pillbox here. We have a little access way for the trench network here and here. This is all laid out in a very reasonable way for trench networks with the zigzagging connections and the sort of crenellated style going forward and back, preventing firing lines from going straight up and down the trench network in case enemies get into it. I like this. This is real cool. Alright, Monkey Man, now you know what you've done. You know what you've done, you know what you've stepped into. I'm gonna need some updates. I'm gonna need to see this as it continues to get worked on, because usually when someone says they're doing Siege of Terra, it's another diorama of the Emperor and Horus facing off over Sanguini's fallen body. But this is pretty damn neat, particularly since it's going to be between two of my favorite Horus Heresy legions, at least as far as paint schemes go, the World Eaters and the Imperial Fists. Spent a lot of time in research. Monkey Man, please, 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 please continue to share your progress with us. Take your time. But please continue to share. I want to see more. When finished, it contains 65 infantry models, 5 to 6 rhinos, 3 dreadnoughts, and 1 warhound titan. Oh, you just got me even more excited. Here we have from Dr. Rhino, working on the skin of the fallen divinity. This is one of the most... Too hot for Twitch. Thank God that little white box is there. Or I might have been offended. Hold on. Did you do that, Rhino? Or did, like... That wasn't automatic, was it? That's not a thing. Because, like, Discord, if it... You were asked to... Okay. I was gonna say, like... Because if Discord censors something, it just won't show it. It just won't let you post it. I don't want to blow my cover or anything. I'm just going to say it reminds me of certain countries' censorship laws where they put like little bars on things and it's like, oh, thank God that little bar is there so I can't tell what's going on. Curious about the arch light thing on the painting table in the background. Brett Watson, that's my light arch. I should have a picture of my painting desk up on the Discord and on my Instagram. If there isn't one recent, I'll make a point of putting one up, but I 3D printed that thing, and then I just ran LED lights in it myself. If you can't find the picture, ping me on Discord, and I'll take one and I'll put it up for you, and I'll happily find the links for the actual one. The ever-powerful white square. Yeah, thank God. Thank God, or I would have been offended. Look at the skin tones, though. Look at the... I love this. I love how the skin gives way to the sort of ragged muscle. I like how the tones you're choosing for the muscle... You know what it looks like to me? Are the preserved muscles from, like, the body exhibits? Where it's not fresh and livid like it's pumping with blood. It's sort of old and almost mummified and dried out. You know? And I feel like that's appropriate for the Fallen Divinity, for almost everything from the Old Dominion, because this is not fresh rot. Nothing about them is fresh. Plasticized, thank you. It's muscle tissue without the blood running through it. No, I appreciate that. Formaldehyde preservative mixed to mimic fresh skin. There you go. Look at the damn bird leg. I guess I never really noticed the sort of harpy-like bird leg on the Fallen Divinity. This is such a gorgeous figure. The sculpt is so amazing. The texturing is so wonderful. Dr. Rhino's really just getting started here, blocking out your skin tones. I can't wait to see what you wind up doing with this, man. if I could name 5 painters to put this model in the hands of to see really do it justice, I mean, you're absolutely in that list, Rhino. I need to do more work on my skin tones. I should paint red. I 3D printed red a little while back. I should paint her, because that's a really good opportunity to work on my oil skin tones. I'm feeling it coming back. I'm feeling the urge to paint coming back, and the part of it is definitely getting to review the work that y'all are doing on such a regular basis, so thank you guys for sharing it with me, as always. But that brings us to the end of the Storm Report, and the end of tonight's stream. A little bit early, but that's okay. A little bit of a short stream. But, you know, it's been a productive one. Thank you guys so much for hanging out while I practiced tonight. I really do appreciate that. I need more. I need more practice, so I hope you guys are ready for more reading, because I'm definitely going to be doing more in the near future. Let's see. Yeah, Commander Mittens is over there. Let's go ahead and head over and say hi to her, why don't we? You know, we are going to do that. We are going to have a channel where people can submit things for me to read, and again, that comes with no guarantee that I actually will, but they are certainly things for our consideration. Let's go ahead and get that raid started, folks. I know some of you might be turning in for the night, though it is a little bit early. But if you feel like sticking around for a minute, if you haven't been to Commander Mittens' channel yet, you're gonna want to stick around. Check it out. Consider dropping her a follow so you can stop into her next stream. I always try to raid you into quality streams around here. Thank you all so much for joining me tonight. We're gonna be back Thursday the 7th. We'll be doing some 3D modeling right here on the stream. This Sunday the 10th, we're still possible for no stream on Sunday. I'll make sure I let you guys know by Thursday. I'll have a definite yes or no by then. Tuesday the 12th, we'll be doing some more 3D modeling, wrapping up some projects. And then Thursday, I think I'm going to try to get started back into my oil painting. I'm going to try to build up some momentum by then, just to get over this little painting artist block that I'm in. I'll let you guys know as we schedule some more reading nights. I really appreciate all of your encouragement and all of your help tonight, guys. I actually had a really good time. A huge thank you, as always, to everybody who joined me tonight. Everybody who posted to the Storm Report. I love seeing your work. It does me so much good. And as always, a massive thank you to my incredible mods, without whom none of this would be possible. I'm going to send you over to Commander Mittens, so until next time, keep on painting.